just tried to put together the timeline and some of my version of it, so to speak. So yeah. I'll use is way more interesting than most people think at face value.
Well, that's good, because I'd love to hear
Way
that
more.
too. Yeah.
Yep. A lot of people just think he's the platitude of Sauron and stuff. No, he's way more into the setting than meets the eye. And there's some really cool little hints here and there that I think are written wrongly, but they are still
Awesome.
really there. So yeah. So we have some cool
Thanks,
stuff.
Mac. Well, at least we know we got sound already. Awesome.
Perfect. Log into Twitch here.
Early's good. It does. I tried to not get my head blown up too high. You know what I'm saying? I made the effort on it. Yeah, I made a sincere try there. So, and just give some good advice. And I was assuming that a lot of people listening to it are not going to know the community or me. So I figured that would be a good idea to do it. So. I appreciate the kind words. have to? I guess I have to play the Chuck thing. I gotta, I'll play half of it. It's like, isn't it over the holidays? Yeah, the holidays are over. So, everyone's doing well though today. I guess we're starting off for this week. Oh, cool, sure. You're playing that game. That's cool. Nice. Baker, I never ran that one. Because I was like, I don't want to rescue Homer. Cool, Patrick. What Patrick's doing that he has to lurk? That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Probably on a date.
Hopefully. You can blame Chuck, but Chuck's been beaten on a lot lately. He hasn't given me anything new, so I told him I'm gonna go to an old one very shortly. I just have been so overwhelmed with time. I just don't have. Oh, I know, Big. I've read the whole thing. The excavation system's really good. For location and stuff. It's a neat concept. It really is. I agree. Definitely agree 100% on that. Alright, here comes Mike. What time is it? Oh, it's only 7:51, so we're good here. Yep. Hello.
Howdy.
Hello. Did I get you in trouble, Mike? With Brandy?
About what you need.
I was like, well, how come you're not going to Gary Con with Mike? And she's like, yeah, Mike. And Twitter.
Oh.
Guess not. That's good. I don't want to get you in trouble. I know she said she got Gen Con tickets and was going to Gen Con. I said, well, why don't you go to Gary Con with Mike?
That'd be a bit much.
You have your whole crew coming, right?
Just me and my two closest friends for Gary Con.
Oh, that's 3. That's good, right?
Well, Jason and who
And
else?
Eric.
Oh,
Jason
awesome!
That's
Yes,
great. That's fantastic.
wonderful news. That's awesome. It was so much fun to hang out in the game last year. So yeah. It's time to look into Gen Con too, so yeah, I have to.
Yeah, Gen Con is its own bit of anxiety.
Yeah,
That's a hard
I-
pass for me this year.
Yeah, I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm seeing what options are. They're starting to form a maybe. It's still a maybe. Yeah. For
Jeff,
me,
I'm
so
glad you got your Titan dice. You got the 2 modules went out today, so
wow.
that you got from Monday nights. Chuck,
GeoffCon, yes. GeoffCon. Yeah, someone needs to start that.
Well, I hear Choler's gonna have a con next year, so
Oh, that would be
Yeah.
cool. In Little Rock then? In their hometown?
I'm not sure. I imagine probably, but
Yeah. That would be cool because I want to go to TrollCon.
the Titan dice, they're big. They're like I don't know, 28 millimeter or something. They're big. They're nice. Yeah, I roll them all the time. So
Big dice. I have a couple of set of big dice, and they're kind of cool because when it's really important around the table, you take out the big dice when when
Yes.
it comes to and all the players get like, oh, here comes the big dice.
Didn't hear when those dice were rolled.
Yep.
enormous and hilarious. That's a good way to put it, Curtis. Exactly.
Yeah.
Sure. 10 players along with the DM. Well, then you can listen to this because you're not going to be able to get a word in edgewise anyway with 10 players.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
I used to have plush dice or like rubber dice that were probably about 4 inches or something really big. But I don't know what they disappeared in some move or something. Someone probably liked them
that
too much.
stinks.
Yep, they were big ones, and we used them to roll sometimes on the floor when it's really important. I'd put them out. So I bought new plastic ones that are probably about 2 inches or something. So about each.
Everyone's doing well. We're about ready to rock and roll here. 1 second here.
How not to DM?
I'm getting curious here. I need to look into that.
Minor surprise coming. Oh, yeah. Did you listen to it, Dave? Thanks. I got through it. You know, it was good. It was a good one. Yeah, I'll share that. Come live here. Come live. Cool, man. Good evening, everyone. As we start a new week and a new month. Good evening. I'm Jay Killer Gazumba with Greyhawk, Mike Bridges, and Anna Meyer. And we'll see what else happens or pops up here.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah, funny. I was answering those style questions. Yeah, I'll got to do what. I wasn't running the interview, so I let him roll with it, and he asked some. And if you all don't know what I'm talking about. But first, for things first, we have a little surprise for everyone here. So, see if this surprise comes in. So.
Oh, this is awesome.
So, it looks like one of the Boneheart has appeared for tonight's episode.
Hail Ayus.
All right then.
Hail Ayus. Yes.
Speak, mortals, what do you know of the old one? Old Wicked and his empire.
Only what I read in books.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, not Rosa Estes books. Those don't count.
Yes. Guess we'll be finding out some tidbits tonight, which is really a fun thing. I think we're all going to find out a little something we may not have known, which is really cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, Casey hopping on, helping us out tonight. This is right up his wheelhouse, as it always says.
Yep.
Hail Ayus. Looking forward to a little Anito discussion. First things first here. If anyone can link it, I'm a dummy. My brain is off. If anyone can link this, please. A couple of you mentioned it, but I'm the guest on How Not to DM's podcast.
Nice.
It's all on Twitter. Yeah, it went very well. So and we talk about style and Greyhawk a lot, and some other things going on, and so.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fun thing. I haven't started the giveaway yet. I will do that in a second. But welcome to as everyone hits drawing before we're even good to go here. So let me set that up. Starting off the week with a real good topic. Another one Mike has come up with, Ayus and his kingdom. Now,
look at that.
Yes, he's got that. I look great on that podcast. That's exactly right, Katana. Couldn't see me. So that was funny. Very.
So I was wondering, if you're a member of the BK, you're not fighting against Ayus, are you? You're working for him.
Depends on if you're triad or player.
Oh, good point.
That's a good point.
Triads were, pushing Ayus's agenda, and the players, most of them, were fighting it.
Right.
Yeah, which makes total sense. A tough call in there, but we will get to all those fun things. Once again, classic D&D reprint. we'll see if Scottish Jeff continues his role of winning every show. He's kind of been on a roll, so but you never know.
Yeah, I'm just going to refill my border
Go
bottle.
for it. So we've all studied a little bit in this discussion in different areas. I got modules covered, and then Anna's got a little research and theoretical. Casey's got living Greyhawk era, and I'm assuming Mike, you got a lot of 2E stuff, right, Mike?
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So but IUs is a fun enemy. But while we're waiting for Anna here, we'll shout this out too. The Monday after the Eagles win the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
is the Gavin Prelude show. Okay, so any of the DMs, if you're out there, DMs running for it. Darling's the only one that's confirmed so far, but she's like the only one I've told. So that's at 6. It should be 7 p.m. Eastern. See, I messed that up. That's Gavin 234. That's 2 weeks from yesterday or whatever, and that'll kick off. That week is going to be so freaking busy. But yeah, so that's that'll be the time we do the prelude and we go over all the other things, including. Daryl Rasdell was very nice. I mean, another donation from the community for complimentary gifts. Look at this. This is almost. I think this is a first or second print. This is a World of Greyhawk folio. Look at how old the logo is.
Oh,
this
wow.
Has gotta be a first or second print.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
yes. So here's another thing for another giveaway item. That's. So that and I already got the signed Gary Gygax, Dave Arneson First Edition Player's Handbook. So they're both pretty nice. In addition to all the other. Thanks. Thank you so very much. It was really kind of you, man. Really kind. And we got so much great stuff. But we'll get there with all the other great discussions in a week and a half. All right. So I don't even know where to begin on this. Like, if we go back to the original glossography, right? It's just like anything. Is IUs even mentioned in the stories leading up? Only just that there's a rise of IUs, right? I got you, Baker. I'll get you in the. Does anyone? Crap! I hit a wrong button.
As always.
Oh, the
same
wrong
wrong
button. Oh my God! As you can all see, I'm pretty exhausted too. So, the original glossography has a little bit of a discussion, and that's what I just showed and linked here of IUs, right, in this section. But it doesn't really go into much. Yes, thank you all. It doesn't go into much detail, does it? It just says he runs this area. And any other, right, Mike? I mean, that's all it really says.
I rarely go back that far in reference.
Right.
But you bring up a good point. All the other rulers aren't really detailed. So was IUs detailed? I don't know.
That's
this
83.
much about the so it's this much in the it's 83.
That's
83. Okay.
So 3 years before that, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's almost the same, but how much is that? 2 paragraphs, Anna?
Yeah, no, it's a little bit. It's like half a page.
Okay, well that's actually that's a lot for.
Oh yeah, it's fairly big. It's not. It's among the mid-sized countries, so to speak, when it comes to room or elaboration in the list. So it's not among the least detailed, but it's definitely not among the most detailed. And then there's the occasional little tidbit, because IU seems to have had a kind of a cherished spot from the beginning, because he's mentioned here and there in other stories and so on. So IUs must have done something early in
what
to get into the published stories early. Yeah.
Okay. What stories is my retort question. Anna, what stories?
Let's go into. Let's see if I can. I don't know. I didn't look into the published stories, but we have the I don't know exactly when it was written with the Sagig and the God Trap and stuff, but it's he's one, and this is something that I've studied in order to do my current Shieldlands campaign, because he's the main villain. And he's so interesting because he's tied into so many fundamental stories about the setting, and he's not that old, meaning the guy is 141 years old in my find 498, and within, because he was born 457. So he's not that old, meaning by realm standards, so to speak. He's not an ancient thing that has been around forever. So he's fairly young, meaning the Great Kingdom was already in decline when he was born, or so that was so he's not that old. But in publishing history, I think he was part of he must have been one of the major villains in the Gary's home campaign or something, because he's mentioned early on in the book, and to rule an empire. So, but I don't know how they held off, because it was only Carl Sargent that kind of raised him to fame and had him conquer that half the empire, so to speak. But before then, he was one of these that was bubbling under the surface. So I'm curious if anyone in chat or someone here knows more of Gary's story with Ayus early on, so to speak.
Considering he's in his novels, there must have been some
exactly. He's mentioned
planned,
like
I'm going, he had put Ayus in the setting, and then when he started doing novels, then he's like, that's his gonna be one of his main villains. So yeah, that was in the back of his head somewhere, I guess.
Oh yeah, and he's also given a lot of attention, meaning a lot of the text is about him. We get to see how he's like an impetulant teenager that is kind of difficult, and we get to see his court, and also some of the most cherished villains like Keek and Obmi and stuff are also in the books, and they're detailed and stuff. So that means that he's one of these fundamental or main villains in the setting from the early days, and then Carl Sargent kind of raised him to infamy. Yeah,
it's weird though, because you're right. Carl Sargent raises him, because I don't know of specifics of any specific publications that really go before From the Ashes, that start really detailing what's going on. I mean, there's a little bit rumored, in Temple of Elemental Evil, right? Because he shows up at the end of Temple of Elemental Evil. He shows up if the adventure, if you're successful, and then Cuthbert shows up,
right? Because they're not allowed to be on the plane,
right? And then they kind of go parlay off. So that's kind of like the first appearance, if I recall, ever of Ayus in my campaign. And so we're talking 1986, 1987. It actually have an actual appearance of him.
Well, what was the From the Ashes date?
Ashes is 92, is it?
I mean, because you do get him, in 1983. You've got the Land of Ayus detailed.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, he's fully statted out.
And he's an evil demigod there, and then they have him in the glossography added up, there. So that's 1983. I'm trying to think if anything predates that. Maybe a Dragon magazine article or something. I'd have to, we should check the Zavoda index, honestly.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't recall, though, anything beyond that, the stats. And what I'm saying is the stats are there in a little detail, but no in-depth stories. Right? Now he appears in the Gordon novels, but how much does he?
I mean, the very beginning of the this whatchamacallit is talking about various things, and I use as one of them. Now, it doesn't go into super detail, but
it says he disappears, right? That's all it says. It doesn't talk about the God Trap. It says that he disappears. He disappears for a while.
No, this is, I think, post God Trap, because it references. I use Land of, and it actually mentions him going after Tensor and Rabalar for what they did to him.
Okay, all right.
By 1983, the God Trap has been established. His getting free of it.
Okay, but I guess I'm thinking of the 80. The 80 one, it's and the story goes, he disappears for a while up there, and maybe that's Eyes the Evil, and I'm getting them all mixed up. So let me bring that up.
I Use the Evil definitely goes into a lot of detail.
Yeah, Carl Sargent spends many pages on his backstory.
But before that, Mike, you have your two adventures that kind of tie in, right? And that's the Phi Shall Be One and Howl from the North?
Loosely, I would guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You want to give us a little reason
If we
and
want
synopsis?
to, if we want to jump ahead to that, sure.
Oh no, we don't need to jump ahead. No, absolutely.
No, I mean
not.
it's something that we can dispense with early. Is all I'm saying.
All right, let's do it. Yep. So.
Yeah, so it's kind of what started off the Greyhawk Wars is that apparently Ayuz was behind the whole Five Shall Be One, the Five Blades of Korrisk, and duping the barbarians into summoning, freeing Vatoon, but it was really Ayuz in disguise or something ridiculous, which was actually, I think, an afterthought.
Oh, was that part of the plot during the adventures? I don't think
that was the plot of the actual modules.
Uh-huh.
I think this is a plot of the Greyhawk Wars that kind of then makes every, so if you played out those two modules like my, friends had, it kind of, I wouldn't say invalidates it, but it really left a bad taste in their mouth to find out that Ayuz was pretending to be Vatoon, and he got the hold of Stonefist to go start attacking in his name, or not in his name. No, they were attacking in Vatoon's name. But then when they found out it was Ayuz, then they rebelled later. But the whole thing sort of indirectly starts the Greyhawk Wars, and it's really something that if you omitted the whole Five Shall Be One, it does not. I don't think it would change the events of the Flannis at all.
Okay. Here comes in Blue Box. Awesome. Great timing. Good evening, John and crew. It was a great discussion. Note this is a topic for all those who have Greyhawk campaigns, and that's Ayuz and his Empire. So, and we got Anna, Mike Bridges, myself, and Casey Brown joins us as Bronhart Kranzer. Plus we got a giveaway. We got some classic D&D modules being given away tonight, so please feel free to hang out. Thank you so very much. We also got a hype train.
There
going.
It is.
Yep,
that's the second one in the series.
Yeah,
yes. And I believe it was supposed to be a trilogy originally,
but the second
and then the third part became Wars, and was
Yep, this is the box here. Yep.
1991 fall winter catalog.
Nice.
Insert flyer still in my adventure.
That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't take my Wars is still sealed, so I'm not opening that. So I got the PDF here. But what Amy says that Vatoon, the Ayuz Vatoon thing's mentioned in here in the discussion. Well, that's pretty interesting.
Taking a real quick look through it.
Yeah,
so
we got the Fall of 10 in here, the Rise of Stonefist. Right. Here it is. So
Rise of Stonefist.
Yep.
So in defense of the whole Ayuz posing as another deity to enrage, whip the barbarians into a rage, Ayuz is the demigod of a few things. We should preface this. He is the demigod of oppression, pain, evil, and deception.
Yeah.
So
fake news.
Exactly.
Fake news.
Yep.
So him posing as Vatoon is definitely in character.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's a big, the extreme play, but it's definitely in character.
It says it right here. If you can read
Special
that.
note.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I believe they're
What page is that?
This is page 7 of the second adventure in the series.
Page 7 of Howl from the North.
So so
it was part of that.
It was in the works. Okay.
Cool. And Howl from the North came out in where's the year? 91. So
yeah, it's still got a 2E.
This is one of the few hard copy adventures of mine that survived the great soap disaster.
Wow.
Whenever I moved from Houston to College Station, Texas on a 105-degree day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just
Well, that's a cool thing that it's noted in there. So, and this is so whoever's, and remember this, Sergeant wrote the first one, but not the second one of these two. So maybe he's off doing.
Sergeant created Vatoon, like Amy says, not a part of the original Pantheon.
Yep. And that probably drove Len crazy.
So
Amy.
Theoretically, does Vatoon exist?
He might have been a plan all along. Someone might have
maybe he just made it up.
Planted the idea and got them to worship something called Vatun, or someone placed the legend early on, and I knew about the legend, and he hooked into it. We don't. That's interesting when you can turn into an adventure. Yeah.
Our great Alderon just told me something I never knew. Igwolf is a male magic user in the original show camp from '76. So I feel like the idea of I use an Igwolf as his mother came a few years later. Wow, I did not know that. But he would know.
I don't know. Don't have that.
He would know, man. That's awesome to know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, all kinds of old details got changed in the 80s.
Hey, Josh.
In one of these early publications, and I always forget which one it is, there's no known parentage to Ayuz. And they're speculating that he's the son of a demon lord, and they actually speculate he's the son of Orcus.
Yeah,
probably because he has a penchant for dealing with the undead.
Yeah.
Until later that they said, you know what? Let's make it sexy. Grazit.
Yeah.
And Igwolf will be
right. So Shokanth was rewritten at that point. I'm assuming Alderaan, right? When it came out, what 82, 83. Forgot. Like I said, I know a lot of people despise it. Carlos and I say it's in the top 3. Shokanth and Tharos in those 2 adventures, but I love Shokanth.
Mike, about your Vatun question, about whether or not he's real, Living Greyhawk thought he was real. Stephen Conforti, who put it together with all of his assistants, there is an entry, Living Greyhawk clerics could worship him, and I'm just scanning through it real quick to see if it mentions anything about the trickery that had gone on. Recent lore indicates a diabolical connection to Vatan's prison, so his clerics have become ardent foes of devils, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, I don't see anything about Ayuz in this Living Greyhawk entry for Vatun.
Yep.
So, what year did it say he was born in?
470. Hang on a second. He is born 457.
All right, so he's really old here, because if we go to this isn't Greyhawk Wars, right? This is Wars. The box set, which if you find one of these, you buy it, everyone. Because you're talking about this stuff's getting harder and harder to find. Really, really difficult to find. But here, as we go up to the old one, it says in 479, so among these princes was a paltry despot of the Howling Hills who died in that year and left the land to his son of questionable origin, Ayuz. Well, there you go. That's weird. So it sounds like he has a foster father.
Oh yes, yeah.
Well,
let's go to the story. Yeah. We have it that he was the son of Gerast and Igvolf, and I have it that he was born in the abyss in Gerast, so he's the son of the abyss, so to speak. And then at age 5, he was placed at a petty lord up in a fief north of Wysdale Lake. And I have it that he was placed there on purpose because Gerast and Igvolf had big plans for him, and they wanted him to be placed up there when he was far away, out of reach of Roxy's and the big factions. And especially Gerast was his master plan, because he saw the rising threat of diabolical rule of Asmodeus and the demons that have then got that clause. Exactly, they got their claws in
the blood
Roxy's.
War.
Exactly, and so he thought that, okay, damn, now I need to do something. So Ayuz was a weapon in that sense.
So Anna, you're describing King Arthur.
Yeah, in a way, yes. Yep. So Ayuz at age 5 was placed in a lord up in north of Doraka. That was in a small. I have it at a town that I call Krunel in my campaign, but that's my invention. The town Krunel, where a little lord. I haven't named him yet, but he was supposed to be. He became Ayuz's human stepdad, so to speak, and he was a cruel lord that ruled, and then with Gerast and Igvolf helping him, giving him the powers and stuff, he quickly disposed of him and started getting. And he was only 19 when he started.
Conveniently, Perrinland's next door.
Yeah.
Always like that.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that was the other reason, because Igvil's mom, or sorry, Ayu's mom Igvil, she ruled Paraland, so that meant that Ayu's was next door, so that could boost her power too, so to speak. So he was supposed to fill a vacuum, and he was also to give a safe backyard as a training ground, and he took it on, and on the wiki page, Greyhawk wiki about Ayus, he took it on really well, so to speak. Meaning he worked really hard to become the Lord of Pain, literally, by torturing and murdering as many as possible to get along with. And in 480, when he worked a couple of decades, he was seen up there and got the name Lord of Pain because he knew how to inflict it, so to speak. So that was the early days of Ayus, as in the backyard of things.
So
when he
him and
learned it.
Igwil's different campaigns, were they tied together or were they separate?
I think they were tied together to some degree, but I also think that both Grast and Igvil probably wanted to hide him because they wanted him to grow strong before he had to confront all the big powers in that's probably why they put him up there in the first place as a training ground and give him some experience and powers and hone his skills before he was confronted. So they didn't put him in the middle of things. They put him up in the backyard.
Yeah. And in the canon says Igwil gave him magical support before she had to flee. It's weird because she had a fight with Grazit after she had the kid with him because chaotic evil all that.
Yes.
But I have an alternate theory on all that, but let's take that later. So okay. Stick with we try to stick with published lore first, and then we can speculate and alter it afterwards.
So what year was he born, Anna?
457.
Okay,
yeah.
So by 500, he's conquered Molag.
Yes.
So that's 43 years later.
Yep, exactly.
And by that point, according to canon, he's already completed the apotheosis ritual that elevated him to a demigod. Yep. So this to me smacks of being somebody's character. Back in Beckme or early editions of the game where you get the 20th level, 30th level.
That
he
might
asked
be.
Luke that once, and he said he
Do
was
you
an
think
NPC.
He was...
Oh, okay. So he was an NPC.
Sure, but they made an NPC probably similar to what they were doing with their PCs.
That might be
when they made Merlin, hero god, and all these others, quasi deities and whatnot. They were like, "Oh, we can do this with a bad guy."
Yeah,
sure.
But then after when he captured Molag in 500, and then he became an enemy on the radar of everyone, Erdidum and stuff. And it only took 5 years for Sagi to nail him and lock him up after that.
Sagi's God radar went off, and
exactly.
He was like,
meaning that's when the big POTUS. So I guess his parents have been smart hiding him up there in the first place. So he got some years of training before he was captured and locked in Castle Greyhawk.
This is more Eric Mona's area, right? He was the God Trap speculator, and so was Gary Holian. But if the God Trap was 9 gods, each of a different alignment, why wouldn't Zagi go for the weakest, right? That means Ayuz was the most easily captured and weakest of the chaotic evil gods.
Once again, that was all retconned afterwards that they needed every alignment, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think it makes sense, though. I like the elegance of 9 gods, 9 alignments.
Yeah, I skip that part and I concentrate on the power dynamics of the setting. Meaning, Ayuz was an up and coming enemy. They needed to nerf him before he became the huge threat that they saw he could be. And they also probably Sagig and the others of power. They probably realized who was behind him, so they needed to nerf him quickly. And they lured him in, and he was kind of eager enough to he walked into the trap, so to speak, and I have it that way. The demigod thing is, but okay. So now he's captured in Castle Greyhawk 505, and then what happens then? Yeah, then there's something interesting because there is it's mentioned in hang on a second here on the Ayus page. Then it says
are you in Eyes the Evil?
No, not yet.
Okay.
And now I'm in interesting. So, uneasy with the growth of Ayu's faith, the Southerners joined together to form the Horn Society, making Molag their capital. That's I don't know what that
lawful.
Exactly. I don't know where that comes from. But the interesting thing is that was the rise of Horn Society after Ayus had been captured, so to speak. So we don't know much about it, and there's been a lot of speculation on the Horn Society, and I want to speculate in that later. But I just wanted to note it that when he's captured, that means the rise of the Horn Society.
Like, yay!
Yeah, exactly.
They took over Molag in 513. According to this,
and they're more devil worshippers than they are.
Well, they became devil worshippers. They were a splinter group of Ayusian.
They're different opinions, and if you read different parts of it, you get like different ideas on.
I like the Nerul connection, but that's just what we use during Living Greyhawk. We had them as devil worshippers who were like more neutral evil. Necessarily and Nerul was involved, but that's just how we did it.
And so Ayus turned Molag when he conquered it into his summer capital as a way of showing that he was there, and he raised the flag, meaning he presented himself as a threat to Furyundi and the good lands and central Flanies and organized Flanies, so to speak. And Zagi took 5 years for Zagi to capture him. So he had a thing or two to learn, and he got some years to learn. 70 years he was locked in Castle Greyhawk.
570. Wow.
Yeah. And we get also another couple of interesting tidbits that comes from
probably came out with a bunch of tattoos.
And didn't what's his name, Robilar, accidentally free him?
Yes. Yeah. But
Robilar and Tensar.
Yeah.
They freed him to kill him.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
That's one of my favorite things. Ayus in this book. Ayus has a grudge list, a hit list. It's the people who captured him and the people who freed him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And those are the people he hates most.
Yep. But it's kind of interesting that they said that the during his imprisonment that in the meantime orcs of the Northlands has named him the Old One. And their worship helped increase the demigod's power. Loyal and opportunistic humans joined the cult, and soon some were rewarded with clerical powers in spite of their patrons' imprisonment. And
just about anyone who's not an orc would probably be called an old one.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. But I think this is interesting. The Old One is what his famous nickname, so to speak, and what does that come from, and what does it convey? Any ideas?
Flan, old faith.
Yep, that's my idea. That's what I went with. I went that he took the nickname the Old One for two reasons. One, to appear like this old ancient evil overlord that he pretended to be. He wanted to hide his youthness meaning he's a young upstart in Flanny's power struggle. So he wanted to it was part of his marketing. One was to appear old and imposing like he's always been there.
Yeah.
And the other part of the was that he wanted to cling or sell himself to the Flan, like he was a defender of the Flan and he was their hero and their on their side, so to speak, in order to fear the ad&d founded states from Furyundi all the way to the Grey Kingdom. He wanted to show that I'm your enemy, so to speak. I'm the Old One. I'm going to come in, and I'm going to come, and we are going to come, etc. So he wanted to boost his colors. It was and his flag, and it was a propaganda move. That's why he labeled himself the Old One.
He wanted to be the boogeyman, and he's a master of deception and lies.
Yep.
Makes sense.
So he's not going to reveal his true
appearance. His symbol is described as the grinning skull, though.
Yeah.
So come on, it's a nice evil god, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And the humanoids worshiping him has actually been something that bothered me, even though we used it in Living Greyhawk, because the orcs have Gromch and their other various gods, and the goblins and hobgoblins, they all have their own gods. And I think that's a fantasy trope, right? That you get this powerful leader like a Sauron or whoever, and that the evil humanoid, and I'm using air quotes and evil because I'm more of the 5e mindset when it comes to intelligent creatures on the planet and alignments, but that they would just flock to any old powerful evil guy's banner. He obviously must have been doing something for them culturally, socio-economically, or whatever. And what he was probably doing was allowing them to fight back at the rovers of the barons and maybe the elves and the Vesvi or whatever, so that they were retaking territory under his, with him at the front of their army when he was younger. He's probably an 18th level NPC at that point. He's just blasting the hell out of everyone in his path for them.
Yeah.
Well,
that's my theory on it.
Note the following: it's noted in the Marklands book that the Vespi Forest orcs are not of Ayus, and they are still Grumsh worshippers, and they fight. Mm-hmm. They hate the orcs, and especially the Orogs that Ayus has bred now. So
that's the Felreef orcs, the Dazark orcs.
Okay, both of them.
There's a sect of orcs in the Felreef who actually stopped fighting the elves because they're more pissed off at their orcs who are following Ayus.
Aren't they?
Dazark.
Yeah, didn't they all die in a plague though?
No.
Yeah, I thought there was like a whole city of orcs that died.
Not the Dazark. They're deep in the Felreef forest.
Okay. Yeah. I have it that the way Ayus took over and got powerful in that sense was that he Horn Society were the ones doing his bidding while he was gone and locked up there. They took over and they first of all they secured Molag and the Southern Lands as a defense bulwark against invaders from the south taking over Ayus' realm, because they were his protection force during those years. And secondly, with Ayu's blessings, they opened the coffers and started to, and instead of going and trying to get the loyalty of the warlords and the clan leaders and stuff and clerics and shamans and stuff from the orc tribes, the grooms loyalists and stuff, they took the other approach. They started recruiting the bottom ones, the outcasts and the lowlifes of orcs, giving them weapons, money, and tell them, go loot for us, we will give you. So it was politics Greyhawk style. They took over from the ground up and that way outwitted those old the cruel master warlords and stuff like that been around for generations. They kind of took over by being smart, savvy, and open the coffers, because I used realized that in order to free myself, I need to build a base to come up with, and he had that, and that way he took over a lot of it. That's my scheme, so to speak. It's that he used those subversive powers, and he lied, stealed, and charmed and bribed and whatever he took, so to speak, and he built that momentum going, so to speak. And that was part, and that also made him stronger as a demigod, so he can really start giving out spells and recruit proper clerics and stuff. And once they saw that power, so it became a power struggle within those communities, but of orcs and other humanoids. But he won that battle to a large degree, and some of them fled and became non-Ayusians, but a lot of them they became loyal to him, so to speak. And then we have the fact when he was released, so to speak. So Mike and Casey, what's your Jay, what's your take on the fact that how he was freed and all that?
I don't know much
why
about
he was freed, or how?
and
well, Tensors,
like
Tensor and Roblar.
I know, but I'm looking from the
Robolar.
lawful good aspect.
Oh, okay.
I think Robolar was kitted out by Mordenkainen.
I think that Tensor's like, we got to get rid of this guy. This guy's bad news. Eventually, he's gonna self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Tensor's only mentioned 4 times, and I use the evil, and they're all within like a paragraph or 2 of each other.
I mean, Robolar has an orc henchman, and then it says that he conned Rigby into helping him. So, and I think that was nefarious from the start.
And Rigby's this focal point of expeditions, because Rigby's been hiding from Ayus all these years, and he dies.
Yeah, because all the other people on the hit list are either dead or out of reach.
Right.
So Rigby was like the lowest hanging fruit.
Right, and then they desecrate his body anyway, because
Tensor came to stop Robolar.
He came late. Yeah. him and
Yeah.
Big B, they show up and maybe they were keeping an eye on things.
Huge amount. I haven't seen you in a while.
And
So
then they show up and they have to team up against IUs.
I want to note something here, and this is in Eyes the Evil under Storm Clouds Gather in the second paragraph of this. It's going to be hard to read. It says, to his annoyance, Ayus discovered that the Temple of Elemental Evil he had developed of Zugtamoy in the Carly Forest had been sacked a year beforehand. So that's in 570, 569, the Battle of Emerity Meadows. When I start my campaign, by the way, 569. We had that discussion multiple times. He allied with Zugtamoy to bring evil creatures to the temple, hoping to draw the attentions of the forces of good in Verberbach. So this is kind of a faint trick as well.
That's interesting. What are the purpose of Temple of Elemental Evil? I have my theories on why he built it.
Well, it says right in here it is to draw the Verberbach area of Viriandi Valuna forces out of the way. That's what it kind of says here.
Yeah, but
and to lock away Zugtamoy.
But I think it was no. I have it basically the other way around.
Okay.
In some ways, that the Temple of Elemental Evil was built and organized by Ayu's forces and his henchmen to free Ayus. It was as a base close enough to Greyhawk, and that they can actually use it as a base to go after him. Remember, it's not that far from Castle Greyhawk to the Temple of Elemental Evil, but it's far enough, and it's outside the reach of the forces of Greyhawk. So I have it that it was a secret base for them to go and try and free him. That's why they built it. That's my theory.
Aren't they also trying to tunnel their way to?
Oh, well, yeah, but come
it's
on,
not that far. It's not. I mean,
it's only 1,200 miles.
If you look here, if you look, it's not. A hop, skip, and a jump. So.
Under the deepest lake in the world that is
only
unknown.
you had some kind of machine that goes underground and could bore.
Mm-hmm. The Doom Grinder should come from Molag and go south.
Jay's just going to have an aneurysm and shut the stream down.
Oh, man. I'm going to give you all an aneurysm during the fundraiser watching when Freddie McCruger wipes out the son of Melf and Ed's character and everyone else. It's gonna be epic. So just note, I'm gonna get payback on everyone. Just kidding.
You know who should be driving the Doom Grinder? Vampire Thrommel.
I didn't know that freaking shit was coming.
Oh man.
Yes. So
dope.
Yes. So here's the Temple of Elemental Evil, right outside of Verberbach, and then. Here's the Hamlet Roadhouse, and then we go. And here's Greyhawk City, right? There we go. It's remote enough. Yeah. So interesting theory there, Anna, on that one.
Yeah, I love to kind of tie things because it's tight, and also that Zugtamoy was Ayu's lover and so on. So she was the one building it. She was the one.
Web.
So you asked a question about the freeing thing, and you got to have a theory on that too, then. But okay.
I have it basically like they were there to kill him. Yes, I think they were there to kill him, and
three of them were going to beat Ayus. Okay.
Yeah, and Ayus was way too strong, so he basically killed them. And
he was in there for a long time. He might have been weakened.
Well, I think it does talk somewhere that he pops out in a weakened state and he barely survives when they all fought him and he get out of there. But by this point, what level are Rigby, Robillard, and what's the goofy Quag or
Quiz?
But we also
12th to 14th.
Yeah, we can also have the alternate. And Robillard might have been.
Robillard would have to be the big one.
Yeah.
Had Robillard gone full Bizarro?
No.
At this point,
no.
But he might have been already. Maybe he was in IU, meaning Robillard was later on IU's side. Maybe he was on IU's side already back then. So, I would say because we already have evidence. He betrayed the good ones at the end of his career, so to speak. So we have it that later on he was a full blown traitor. So I have it that he was in the service of IU's or sold. He was on IU's payroll even back then. So he was the one that was actually sent in to free him. and the other ones were there to kill him, but they didn't know that Robilar was on Ayu's side.
That's
And
interesting.
because Robilar was a corrupt trader anyway, so I have
thought,
it that
okay. I thought
Yeah.
it said Robilar had a vendetta against him and wanted to kill him.
well, Robilar is probably
Personal
going to
grudge?
be bought off enough power and money and promises. Yeah. A
I think
Alarm's
demigod
not
might be
around
able.
yet at this point, Fan Fun. No, the opposite one is not there yet. That happens.
I think Robilar is the ultimate mercenary. It says in
Yeah.
at least it says in Eyes the Evil that he had some dispelling magics on him.
Yeah.
So he was clearly given these items to actually do the freeing part.
Yeah.
You know, he
Mhm.
didn't just like pick the lock or anything. No, this
Exactly.
was magic.
So I have it that Robilar
Yeah,
was tasked with freeing.
he was tasked. He was
Yeah.
paid, and
He was paid to do it, yes,
Yeah.
and he was corrupt enough to do it. Meaning, come on,
it
yeah.
says when Tenzer and Bigby show up that Robilar was getting ready. He was almost going to scoot out.
Yep.
And he changed his mind and joined in.
Yep. So that's my take. That Robilar was the one that he was a traitor even back then, and he was the one that freed him. So yeah.
Well, someone had to do it.
Yep. Someone had to do it, and probably given those artifacts or the magic that could set him free, probably by either Igwilv or Zuktmoy.
All in the name of the balance.
That's an interesting theory right there.
Yep. And they were the ones that got him into it. So yeah.
So why wouldn't Igwilf, who's like what 30th level or 25th level at this point in AD&D terms, maybe
she didn't want to risk it herself. It's much better to send someone else to do it. I think she cared, but and hang on a second. She was diminished back then. She was diminished because she had the outing with Grast, and so her powers were waning, and she was locked up somewhere, and so she was unavailable. So it was Zuktmoy was the one that could do it, not Igvil, because those Igvil's days were numbered, or her days in power were numbered, and she had the fallout with Grasset and was in trouble power wise, and she lost her realm in Pearland and all that, so to speak, when this happened. So her star had already fallen when Ayus needed help. So I think that Zuktmoy is the one to.
That's so Zuktmoy, who was briefly imprisoned in the Temple of Elemental Evil.
Well, that's the saying. That might be her false news. She might not be in prison. She was the one that built it. That was her lair.
Definitely sealed.
Exactly.
Sealed,
I
right?
don't know. We're really all right. We're really
Oh,
going.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm a Temple of Elemental expert.
Skip
she was in prison there.
skip the tangents. Skip the tangents or the changes for now. Yeah. So okay. So he is. I use his freed, and he returns to his domain up there, and then the shit really starts hitting the fan, literally, and the campaign goes into war and Carl Sargent era. He upsets the whole world basically, and Ayus is one of these main architects of the new order of the Flannies.
It took him 13 years from when he got free in 570 to when he recaptured Molag in 583 on the night of the Blood Moon. Right, when he killed all but one of or two of the hierarchs, and that's actually detailed in the Gordon novels.
Yeah,
or at least one alternate version of it.
Yeah,
because I don't think Gord is set on Oworth 616, so to speak, or Oworth Prime, right? Because the universe gets destroyed at the end of those books.
Oh yeah, and a lot of that we can only really count the books that were written while Gary was at TSR. The other ones are kind of going haywire in a lot of ways, but we could be taking inspiration from them. But we have it that so Ayus basically starts kicking off. He impersonates Vatun and gets the Stonefisters to attack 10 and go crazy there. And then someone lured the Kedites to attack into Bissell and Veluna. And then the Greyhawk or the Grey Kingdom starts waking up and goes haywire too, and Ulmor gets crushed.
I really think if you omit the whole barbarian angle that the Greyhawk Wars play out exactly the same. To me,
yes. Yeah, in a lot of sense, yeah, because the Great Kingdoms crushing or going west to get to Nairon and through Almor and stuff, that is unrelated. I see them as opportunists. Things are going haywire somewhere else, and okay, let's take the chance when things are unruly to unleash what we wanted to unleash. So yeah.
The point, not to go back to this for too long, but the whole point of the freeing Vatoon and getting the swords and all that was to unite the barbarian lands. Well, didn't end up in uniting anything. So Fistmouth did their thing, and then the rest of barbarian lands just kind of sat out the Greyhawk Wars. That was my main gripe.
Yeah, so it sounds like, though, if you read in Eyes of the Evil, it says that the Vatoon charade doesn't last long.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's why if it was actually Vatoon, it would have been more pivotal for the Greyhawk Wars. But oh well.
Right.
But that kind of proves the point that it was Ayus because
think about it in metaphysical game terms. Assuming Ayus is an actual deity of deception who draws power from worship and deception he creates by impersonating Vatoon and granting spells to clerics of Vatoon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's getting their energy, at whatever God ratios of energy that happens, and then he can use that to power other stuff.
He's also the god of pain, so he likes torture
elsewhere, right? And he's just he's just having a good time. Like these hicks, these yokels up in the mountains are idiots.
Right.
I'm gonna mess with them, and maybe he could find some magic items or worshippers.
That seems on brand for him then.
Right. And sometimes the best laid plans of chaotic evil demigods often gang a glay.
We
have to remember that one for my next book.
So you get to the point where, and I don't know if we want to go over the details of Greyhawk Wars, but Shieldlands falls, 10 falls, Stonefist converts over, right? Go ahead.
DK falls like a set of dominoes.
Yeah, we have the prelude to it in that area is that the Horn Society is the one that rules parts of or takes over and gangs up with some of the other warlords of Bandit Kingdom and attack the Shieldlands and stuff before the Greyhawk Wars.
They were forcing parts of the Bandit Kingdoms to work for them, the Horn Society, because they had the devils and they were more magically powerful. They were getting the western parts of the Bandit Kingdoms, the Warfield and Wormhall and Abara. And I think one more, the Tangles people, maybe. Yeah. And they were using them first to fight off the rovers of the Barrens, I think, if I remember correctly. And then they sent them down to sack Shieldlands, because the Bandit Kingdoms people were raiding Shieldlands anyway.
Yep.
So that wasn't too hard to convince them, but
intensified it.
The Horn Society, though, said, go or we're going to kill your women and children, kind of thing.
The Horn Society definitely had their hands full with fighting nomads and Shieldlands.
Here's my theory on all that. That we had those events in the Eastern and Southern Flannis articles where this is discussed, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's available, and it was Kuntz and Gary writing those. Then you get the Free City Graph box set, and you have Niles, and then you have Carl Sargent, and oh my gosh, the British gentleman we had on the show. Oh my God, my brain shut off. Free City Graph box set. Who we have? Anna?
Oh, yeah.
I apologize. See, I'm getting old.
Yep. Yeah, I forgot
Rick
now
Rose.
too.
Rick Rose.
Rick Rose. Yeah, thank you.
And they pull some data from those articles. Yes, they pull some data from those articles. And in those articles, they say the Horn Society's been attacking, and then they put that there's refugees from Shieldlands in Greyhawk. And then it magically gets forgotten about, and then Ayus does his invasion, wipes them all out. And so it's like the Circle of Eight dying multiple times, getting wiped out over and over.
You mean the Hierarchs or something else?
Yeah, no, it's the horns.
And-
What?
Yeah.
One hierarch is in the free city of Greyhawk, and one is in the Felry Forest.
Mhm.
No. You're
Afterwards,
talking about
yeah.
post-wars.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
I'm talking pre-wars. I'm talking
Mhm.
about the Free City Greyhawk box set. The Horn Society is actually taking over part of the Shieldlands. It doesn't say
Mhm.
how much. Doesn't say
No, but
details.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
okay.
but they did that early. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and this is from the Free City Greyhawk box set information.
Oh yeah, and it was mentioned in those little snippets that Gary put in Dragon magazine. So,
Right,
so,
and that's
so,
and that's it, and that's where they pulled this information from.
Mhm.
Was those?
Yep.
But then magically, the Shieldlands takes back their land at some point, and it's not mentioned anywhere. And then Ayus invades them.
well, that to
No,
me
no.
is no,
That's
sorry.
not the order.
Go on, Casey.
Yes, it is.
What happened is the mercenaries from the Bandit Kingdoms, who were in the Shieldlands, hear about the fall of Molag, and they all rush to go home to prepare their homes in the Bandit Kingdoms for Ayuza's invasion. So the Wormhall, the Abarans, the Tangles people, the Earldom of the Tangles, and the Warfields all flee. All those mercenaries flee, and that creates the vacuum because the Horn Society is suddenly without these hundreds or thousands of troops. And briefly, the Shieldlands is not really being devastated. And then I have the Ayuzian army marches through the Bandit Kingdoms and then circles back around to get to the Shieldlands after they do Red Hand.
Okay.
After they do that.
But no, these books are from 1989 that reference that the Horn Society's taken Shieldlands over.
Well, I mean, the Horn Society was raiding into the Shieldlands very extensively before Ayuz took Molag. I mean, we know that.
It's a bad TV glitch.
But the way I try to have solved it, that Horn Society were the ones helping Ayuz. They were the bulwark to protect his empire, so they were on his side. So Ayuz didn't take over. He was not an enemy to Horn Society. Leading up to the things, so when Horn Society raided Shieldlands and ganged up, that was a preparation for Ayu's return and the war, so to speak. So that Blood Moon festival and when they killed that's for show, and that was Ayu's needed to show that he took over by force. No, he didn't. In my world, meaning the Horn Society was Ayu's force to begin with, but then since my Horn Society were the Flan protectors and stuff, so when Ayus attacked 10 and stuff in the war and wiped up, that's when the Horn Society fell out with Ayus, and now they're decimated and things are changing after the war, so to speak. But during the beginning of the war and stuff, the Horn Society and Mola, they were put there in order to protect the lands from invaders, and while Ayus was in prison. And then when they knew that we will probably get him out, they started preparing for the future campaign by kicking off the war early, so to speak. And then Ayus picked it up. So that was my way of rectifying the those kind of disparating
so
and
S.M.
weird.
Baker says that Red Hand just voluntarily joined ICE. Wasn't that the case for a lot of the Band Kingdoms, Casey? Didn't they just
I think so.
join?
Yeah.
So Alhaster Benthany, if we throw the map up there, it'll be easier for me to remember.
Because
Start at Molag and work across. So you go to Wormhall first, if I remember correctly. And Wormhall is super creepy, has some sort of cabal of unknown powers that live under a tower. And they have like one figurehead human. The Ayuzian showed up and basically, I think it was met with the powers, and then they took the knee.
Oh, there's your favorite place.
Yeah, Stillbone Meadows.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Warfields bent the knee. They fought until they realized they were going to lose. They did hold out. The Abarans fled, and there were a bunch of assassins living in hidden dirt compounds, basically. And they fled. Fleischreiber was created out of the Freehold, south of the Fellreave. Freehold there, you see? Mm-hmm. That they flee into the Fellreave, and Kranzer and other Ayuzian spellcasters turn that into Fleischreiber, which becomes a demonic extraplanar experimental
scariest
tower.
Place and all.
Yeah,
of
it's
the
cool.
Right, it's bad. The Earldom of the Tangles, they get conquered, and Lesser Boneheart Onderock takes it over, makes it a regional capital. They continue to the east, and they get to the middle there, the midfields, I think it's called if you zoom in. I forget.
Yeah.
That was a Hextorite.
Midlands.
Yeah, the Midlands were actually Hextorians in the Bandit Kingdom. So you get this weird lawful evil sect of soldier, types. And they fought their asses off. I think they were having the time of their lives fighting all these Iusians and demons, but they eventually just get destroyed. And that's when the Iusians are able to cross the river and go to Rook Roost. And by then, the shape-shifting demon, not demon, Cambion, basically assassinates the leader of Rook Roost, or the leader of Rook Roost flees. He actually goes to Blackmoor. He's a 9th level spellcaster. He flees and in canon goes to Blackmoor. Yeah. So Rook Roost falls, and then the territories north of it fall, and then the Iusian army continues south and attacks Yo-Rays and defeats them on the open field.
If Rook Roost goes down, pretty much doesn't all the Band Kingdom pretty much give up?
No, not at all, because a lot of them were so independent and far away and stubborn that they weren't relying on Rook Roost for anything. But the Yo-Rays falls, the Kinnamete, the town of Kinnamete, and then the Iusian army continues on to Dimray. And Dimray is the Fultons, the crazy Fultons. To walk in the darkness, to walk in the light, you must first walk in the darkness.
This is like what they've been waiting for.
Right, and we know from one canon reference that the Dimrites kick the snot out of the Iusians. And I did a lot of research for my book here, $9.95 on Amazon. And in the back, yes. In the back, I have a timeline of this march across the Bandit Kingdom. Nice. If I remember correctly, what I posited was that by now, Kranzer had gone down to Rift Crag to take control of the silver resources in the Rift Canyon that Iuse's economy needed to pay the humanoids, pay the mercenaries, and all that stuff. And he had left some bozo blackguard in charge. The blackguard gets his ass handed to him by the Dimrites because they're just badasses. He's forced to the treaty table. And in my interpretation, I think it's actually mentioned in canon that the person who surrenders or treaties Dimrai gets hauled off to Dorica and is never seen again because Iuse is so pissed off that he signed a treaty with Dimray, which oddly Iuse continued to honor throughout the entire Greyhawk Wars. The remaining army then turns south and goes past the Rift Canyon to the Duchy of the Artonsime. And not a lot of detail about that in canon other than they win. The Iusians win. I posited that it was Duke Delor who was being assisted by a very powerful Renee Witch, who put up a strong resistance because initially the Iusians were slowed a little bit. But they eventually defeat the Artonsime. They go and get Stoink. And we then have Boss Daly, I think, is murdered, and Boss Renfus, the modeled, is installed in the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer. I posit that Renfus, the model, is actually a Slod. That's my theory, is that he's a shape-shifting chaotic neutral
all
Slod.
All the bandit rulers are eventually demons and priests,
Some of them, yeah. So that's kind of my theory on Stoink, but that was more of my buddy Theo's area. He used to bug Gygax on the old chat days. Info.
That's awesome.
So then the Iusians continue marching from the Artonsime down along the river, and they go down into Red Hand. Well, there's Balmund and Teresh, which are south of there in the Great Lands of Rehu. And the Rehu flee, and they go around the Rift Canyon, through the Tangles, and all the way up into the Fell Reef, half of them. The other half go into the Rift Canyon and become bandits called the Men of the Rift. And they make alliances with Minotaurs and other really nasty humanoids that live in the Rift Canyon. But so the Iusians conquer Rehu and they install. Kranzer has once again taken over the march because of the failure at Dimray. He installs low-level clerics, at every town and village that they conquer. They get down to Alhaster. And Alhaster has seen what's going on, and Zeech, who at this time is a cleric of Hextor, having already fallen out of grace as a knight, bends the knee so that his city is not destroyed. and Alhaster becomes a naval capital charged with trade for IUs and making ships for naval warfare to attack the county of Ernst in the future. The Alhaster.
Did that ever happen?
So the Alhaster boat captains begin doing corsair privateer raiding on the county of Ernst, which they were kind of already doing before,
major.
once Zeech had gone Hextorian. So the Iusians leave a whole bunch of orcs in Alhaster. Zeech hates the orcs, and he has them swapped out with hobgoblins that the Iusians had left in Trelaunt, which is real close to Radagast City.
Yeah.
Trelaunt is. So Zeech, who likes the lawful nature of the hobgoblins, they're clean, they're orderly. I think of hobgoblins as Roman legionnaires, frankly. He has them swapped out, and he gives all the orcs to the Trelaunt garrison. He takes the hobgoblins. The Iusian army continues marching west now towards the Shield Lands, and eventually rejoins with the division that had gone from Molag straight south. So I misspoke earlier when I said that they didn't get to the Shield Lands until they went through the BK. One group went due south from the Molag, and I think it was led by Hauga or Althea or Panchazek the Vile, off the top of my head. While Kranzer looped all the way around and installed Ladies of Indra in Grouster, and Lord Marshal Arus Mortoth's, who is Kurzinen. He's the Cambion who shapeshifts in Rookroost, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there was this two-pronged path to the Shieldlands. By the time Kranzer's army gets to the Shieldlands had already fallen to the other forces.
The Shieldlands are so indefensible, in my opinion.
They're yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not anymore.
So that was a lot. I hope it was helpful, but
yeah.
There's a lot of bandit kingdoms, so
Yeah.
they were taken piecemeal, one at a time.
And each one reacted differently.
All except Dimri, right?
Yeah.
Right. Dimri fought back.
Okay.
Rehu's, they fled. I'm just trying to. The Earl of the Tangles got like murder hoboed by Lesser Boneheart Onderock, who then he killed everyone in the city of Halorn. The town of Halorn was the capital of the Earldom of the Tangles. And he raised them all as like undead and zombies. And even the Iusians were like, dude, we need people.
That's funny.
Yeah. This actually leads into Iu's other portfolio here is he's the demigod of oppression. So he's got to have people.
Right. He's not Orcus.
So he and his priesthood's probably making life pretty bad for these bandits. So much that the bandits are become rebels, probably.
Well, what happens is they completely cow the bandits, and every year before the bandits would gather together at the site of Steelbone Meadows to plan next year's raids against either the Shieldlands or the Rovers of the Barrens or Tin, and there'd be a big drunken bandit party going on. And so the year after Ius conquered them, the most powerful Iusian, who wasn't Kranzer, summoned all the bandit leaders and their troops to the Steelbone Meadows to talk about the next step of the war. Like he goes crazy. He thinks they're all out to kill him, and he summons a whole bunch of demons and orc assassins and gets all the bandits drunk and murders like 5,000 or 10,000. That's a huge number, even in modern warfare. Losing 5,000 to 10,000 actual deaths as opposed to injuries,
which takes a lot of troops off the table. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and just devastates the adult male population of the bandit kingdoms for 20 years, in my opinion. Which also turns the Steelbone Meadows into a haunted area where the undead there cannot be turned by clerics of Ius.
That seems to happen a lot.
Or controlled.
These battlefields.
They can't be touched by the clerics of Ius. They're so pissed off about what happened.
So they're all revenant types, which is good.
Yeah, it's all various things. And that's where I put, to tie into a previous show, I put Replier, the chaotic neutral sword of answering, one of Kellenen's 9 swords. I just had hand waved it that one of the bandit lords had risen to power because he had Replier, and that he died there at the Battle of Steelbone Meadows. So during Living Greyhawk, that's where I had it found.
That's cool. Really neat. So he had a large. At one point, the kingdom was large. Very, very
Yeah, and then
large.
go up north. He had conquered the barons for the most part, or had them running around like crazy people.
Yeah,
like
the
in Tim's
barons kind
game.
of got the Bandit Kingdom treatment. The rovers were smacked down in the Battle of the Opicum River, and that weakened them for a very long time.
Just
and that happened before the Greyhawk Wars.
Yeah, he started. Yeah, exactly. He started conquering north first, and cleared up. Probably because he wanted manpower and resources, and he wanted to clear his backyard before he
well,
attacked
and
south.
the rovers probably started it. They did a fair bit of raiding themselves. They were used to fighting bandit kingdoms and the Horn Society, and they got smacked down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably made good slaves though. Yeah.
And Dale makes an interesting point. Like, Hughes is someone who we know has very powerful leadership. He's got the Greater Boneheart, the Lesser Boneheart, and the Bone Shadows, all of whom are in the teens or higher levels in AD&D terms, right? They all got experience points during this war. Many of them were leading forces, and Kranzer is known to go adventuring in the Rift Canyon with a whole bunch of bodyguards, specifically trying to level up as fast as he could because he was terrified of Null and Jumper, the Greater Bonehearts, because they were so much higher level than him. But it's a very meta mindset for NPCs to actually be like, I need to level up.
Jumper.
And small trivia, we had Chris Stulak, who's now at Wizards of the Coast. He got to play Greater Boneheart Jumper at a LARP interactive we did during Living Greyhawk.
Wow. So he was dressed up as
purple boots
Jumper
and a cape. Yeah, he caused a lot of chaos at that event. It was
Jumper's
fun.
Crazy.
Yeah. And we statted all these guys up at 3.5, and they're all just bonkers.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I've statted up Obme for 5e. That made it into a Worth journal.
Yeah. So, we go to the Wars era, and then those post Carl Sargent decide this is too much. And then I think it's Zeb Cook, right, with the Crooker Rail. That's Zeb Cook's doing. Okay, that's what I thought. So this item that gets found in Mordecai's Fantastic Adventure, correct? The Crooker Rail is in that.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
No.
Okay.
Was it Isle of the Eight?
Isle of the Eight.
Oh, Isle of the Eight. Yeah.
Isle of the Eight.
Yeah, they find it, and first it's like super, some sort of just. Yeah, it's just a simple stroke, and you kind of fix it. To me, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it was the way to kind of keep them in check, undo.
Yeah, retcon things or something. So yeah.
Well, so Ayuz has this thing called the Black Spear Chamber in his palace in his capital city of Dorokai, and the Black Spear Chamber is a gate to the abyss, and this is where he's just willy-nilly summoning demons all the time. And when they come through these gates, it actually buffs them with spells. No, this is Eyes of the Evil.
Oh, it's in Eyes of the Evil.
It's probably in City of Skulls too. City of Skulls.
Yeah, it's probably in both.
You in the city.
Right.
But I'm just saying the Black Spear Chamber is this permanent gate that Eyes is just summoning demons, more and more demons. And if you just go through Eyes of the Evil, there's just so many demons. There's demons on the troop list. There's demons running the towns. There's demons just everywhere. And so
lots of cameos.
The only way they were going to check it, the players ain't going to be able to kill that many demons, so they had to get an artifact to take care of it. And I recall that the demons that were unsummoned by the Crook are banished from Orth for 100 years.
Same amount that Zugdamui is if you do it right in Temple of Elemental Evil.
Well, 100 years was tied into killing an outsider in AD&D First Edition, right? It even appears in R.A. Salvatore's novel. Drizzt kills that one demon in the Crystal Shard, right? And I think it says like
a standard D&D thing.
You have 100 years until I return, or something like that. I specifically remember that as well. Bet you guys didn't think you'd get a Crystal Shard reference on a Greyhawk show.
Yes.
Elminster would be proud.
We can do another Crystal Shard reference here for 10
Have you
seconds.
asked Ed if Elminster's going to be in the movie? By the way, just topic for another day.
Is he?
That's the new rumor. Is that Elminster because it's the Red Wizards of they.
Well, I'll ask Ed. There you go.
That would be a cameo.
One of the giveaways.
That's probably an NDA. He can't say anything.
One of the Larry Elmore giveaways is that poster signed for the fundraiser. There you go. And that is the Crystal Shards cover, isn't it? So, there you go.
Black Spear Chambergate.
It's neat stuff. Hey, Cave Geek, good to see you, man. Another sponsor of the fundraiser.
Doesn't
Fear.
Who's the Drow badass? High level priestess of Loth and
Calavdra. She's not a priestess.
Calavdra. I think she's using the gate to when she's doing her back and forth between Loth and Grazit and stuff. But
I'll get it out of Ed. I'll squeeze it out of Ed one way. I'll say, and then if he goes, I can't tell you, then I'll know it's true. So, but if he says, he'll say no. So, all right. So we're
thank you, Brackart. Urtu the Baylor.
Yeah, Urtu the Baylor.
Crystal Shard.
Crystal Shard. Very cool.
Good book.
They were good books back then.
It's the first one I ever read.
Oh, well, they absolutely, and they were much better than the Mika Oba Rose Estes.
That's the second time you busted Rose Estes novel.
I know. I should stop.
You're not Eric Lowe.
This is
By
getting
some
recorded.
twist of fate, I read those early Forgotten Realm novels before I ever read a Greyhawk novel.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of disappointing, in my opinion, to go from like Crystal Shard then to reading, Rose Estes. Quite a shock.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, even the Moonshade novels were.
Yeah, Moonshade.
Douglas Niles were better, and I'm not pooping on Douglas Niles. I'm just saying. That's a whole other show.
Someone we haven't had on yet, Casey, so we got to be careful with you guys.
Yeah, no, I'm being. Yeah. I have no problem with Mr. Niles.
Yeah, we need him on because he wrote half that great Free Cigarette box set, so I got to get him on just for that purpose. That'd be awesome. All right, so we're at the point where the Empire's at its greatest, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now the big question is, then what? This is pre-Living Greyhawk era, or maybe it's during Living Greyhawk era, and it stays the same till then. 2.5 undoes a lot of it, right? The Roger Moore book undoes some of it. I think that's Crook of Rao era, isn't it? That's where I get confused. I think that it happens at 2.5 before 3rd edition comes out. Correct? Am I correct on that? No, that's 3rd edition. Roger Moore, that's it. Yes, Adventure Begins. Yes.
Well, I thought they were in the same box set.
No.
9577 and 9578.
Yeah, but they came out very close to each other.
Very close.
Yeah, I thought they were in the same. One's by Ian Brown and one's by Roger Moore.
I thought the second one by Ian Brown was a pre-3rd edition book. Maybe not.
I think they're both
pre-3rd edition.
I thought they were 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they rehash a ton of stuff that came before. Like they actually reprint entire sections.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
It's an update.
The Gem of the Flaness and all that stuff.
It's an update and a correction.
But that's when the Crook of Rao stuff comes out, and then things change.
Yeah.
All right.
But the weird thing is that the Crook of Rao changes things, but not really, because IU still controls basically the same lands he did. So it changed things in mechanic terms, but not in political terms, so to speak.
Well, they give you a slither. They give you a slither of.
Oh yeah, exactly. They give you a little bit there, and they retakes part of the Furiundi. Yeah.
Oh,
the Crusade.
Yeah.
The Northern Crusade. So yeah.
So when they did these in '98, 3rd edition was about to be released.
You're
years later.
You're -1.
Gen Con 2000.
Yeah, you're -1 then, right?
Well, -2 if we talk to the Joss guys and whatnot. But they're an early Living Greyhawk planning, probably, if we ask SRM or Eric Mona or whoever predated them.
Because that's a Roger Moore book, so.
And Gary Holian would have been working on the Gazetteer. Almost, probably, certainly at the same time.
I haven't seen Gary on tonight, unfortunately. Yeah. He's hiding out after his.
How about that?
49ers got crushed.
Never occurred to me.
So.
Oh, he'll be fine.
Want to show his face.
This came out in 2000, the Gazetteer. So they dropped it with
Curtis has
Yeah, so there was a lot of Greyhawk work being done at Wizards back then.
So
these were the earliest days of Wizards because Wizards had just bought TSR. So
97.
Yeah. So they were just kind of ramping up and getting stuff out the door. So
here's my observation and then question follow up.
Yep.
As we go into 3rd edition, we know Bandit Kingdoms is all about IUs, right? I'm going to start bleeding out my ears and other orifices when I say this. Mm-hmm. We know Fiorendi has nothing to do with IUs. It's about Vampire Thrommel taking everything over. Okay?
What? In Living Greyhawk.
In Living Greyhawk. Okay. Yes, that's the whole joke, Anna. Vampire Thrommel takes over.
Right.
Okay. Well,
and they are fighting IUs. I think if we went and watched that show from 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, but it's Living Greyhawk. You have to take it with a whole salt shaker.
I understand that,
salt.
but there's and High Folk, I'm assuming, is doing a lot of IUsian stuff. We should ask Tony Winslow Brill at some point for.
Well, that's Greg Marks
and Greg
and Jason Bullman and Chris Tulloch. All 3 of them were High Folks guys.
Right.
That's the elves, mostly fighting IUs and then doing other or doing elven politicking.
Right.
And other stuff. But yeah, so High Folk, Parent Land, and the Shield Lands round out the IU's territory during Living Greyhawk.
We also know that in a drunken stupor, 10 gets destroyed not by IUs but by some crazy
ether bugs.
Ether things, right? So that's out then. That's no longer an IU's territory. If
Poor 10, they get overrun by fists. And then by ether creatures.
Exactly.
We've heard the story. They gathered at Gen Con and decided to slaughter 10.
It's like let's just do it. Right?
It was too boring to make it a region for Living Greyhawk or something.
So they screwed it.
So
it got
during Living Greyhawk era, and then we get to the end of published source at the end of the Living Greyhawk area. Where are we? Where are you? Where is everyone with where IUs is at the end of published source is my question, right? Because on the Kingdom, that's eventually becomes our from.
Well, the last published source is probably Greyhawk Ruins by Mona and crew, right? Because the whole thing is about
I'll
one Boneheart. Okay.
Yeah.
So at the end of Living Greyhawk.
At the end of Living Greyhawk.
Most of the IUsian stuff had been driven out of the region in the Bandit Kingdom. I can't really speak for the other.
Regions. Oh, really? And all they're back. All the bandit. They're back
most of them are back. Like Zeech had declared himself free of IUs in 598, and he actually atoned and converted back to the worship of Hieronius at the end of Living Greyhawk.
Nice.
Yeah, Zeech did. Well, I give a really big backstory as to why he went Hextorian in the first place in my book, which I've already plugged once, so I won't grab it again.
Zeech is fun in Age of Worms, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm trying to look at the other various regions.
Need to read that again, because that's really cool. That's
post Age of Worms too.
Well, Age of Worms is not Living Greyhawk canon because they didn't coordinate with us. And remember, when Eric was on, we asked him about it, and he didn't want IUs to have anything to do with Age of Worms, which is why I ignore Age of Worms. Look, I acknowledge it's the earliest adventure path, right? Yeah. But
it really
does not take IUs evil.
It only really affects
the Rift Canyon. No, the Rift Canyon.
And the Rift
Canyon. Because of the Cayuse is there in Wormcrawl Fissure stuff, right?
There's a whole city of giants in Age of Worms. Does Living Greyhawk use that?
No, we had Illithid down there. The dragon Morgenstaller is the big bad creature in the Rift Canyon. Things like that.
At least what's oh my God, Dragoth is in Age of Worms.
Dragoth.
Right, and he's down in White Plume Mountain, right?
No, well, Anna has it here, right?
See, I always put Dragotha in White Plume. Maybe I misread something 20 years ago.
It's on the map. of White Blue Mountain. It
Right.
says
Yeah,
your growth is up
exactly.
there.
The points,
Oh,
an
maybe that's
arrow
what
in
I'm
that
forgetting.
direction, saying that
Yeah.
here be dragons, basically, like the
So
the
you-
way to the lair of Dragotha, and he points an arrow to it.
So-
You
yeah.
talk about all the gains lost in the Bandit Kingdoms, and
Yeah.
so one of my favorite parts of Eyes the Evil is the Furiandi front. This line
Yes.
right here,
Yeah.
Which
where Ayuz is fighting Furiandi. Did Furiandi take all that back?
Well, Anna's
Yes.
got
Before or after?
We discussed this, Mike, on Sunday night, and this is
yeah,
a good,
we did
go
a
ahead,
little
Anna.
bit.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and oh yeah,
I don't have it on
it's
my
kind
map.
of, to me, it's kind of interesting because it's so weird, because you have Ayus attacking on two fronts, down through the Vesvi, and then east through Shield Lands, and then
Wow.
through the Horn Society, and from the northeast, and from the east, and then from the northwest. So both on both sides of the Weistil. But the weird thing is that the front ended up being like a line, a west-east line through Furiandi. That doesn't really make sense. So it should,
You're right.
it should have been like an eastern front and a western front, and he should have crushed it this way, so to speak. So that kind of, that line and all that seems to be a waste of resources on both sides.
Really?
For some weird, it geometrically it doesn't really make sense, so to speak. So
You
to
mean
me,
he didn't
that's weird.
also attack across the lake?
Well, he doesn't seem to have that much resources in the lake, because he barely even managed to capture Crockport.
But if you're being attacked you're flanked from east and west fronts,
yeah,
that whole lake side of Furiandi's,
the line,
they have to retreat anyways, right?
Oh yeah, but the thing is that either you retreat really far south, so to speak, or there should be a front more like this, so to speak. So that you just get a straight line like that through that to me doesn't make any sense, really.
This map I printed out was photocopied from the Ayuz the Evil map.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see all the lines drawn on here, but I had actually I run a lot of war campaigns, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
This was one of my last ones I did, where I totally sectioned off all the lands of Ayuz and Furiandi, and we war gamed it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a combination war game and then actual play that culminated
cool. Yep.
in the players driving their armies up to Doricon, fighting Ayuz mano a mano.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
And that was 3-5 rules.
You're too nice. I would have had him flee to Azagrat, one of his daddy's lairs on the Abyss.
And we have, did Grabford fall to the Ayusians?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
Bradford, Gold Keep,
Yep.
yes.
Mhm.
Yes, and Eyes the Evil, yes, it did.
Yep.
So, CMD, welcome. We've been
Commander Rokusei is my guess.
welcome. We've been streaming almost 5 years. Ton of Greyhawk content. We got a lot of going on. Great communities. I'll give you some shout outs. So some Discords. There's Cannon Fire Discord and the Greyhawk Events Discord. So feel free to join up, say hello. We got a stream tomorrow night. We got a cool stream Wednesday. We got a fundraiser coming up in 2 weeks for St. Jude, our 5th annual. We got a lot going on in the community. So, Crockport.
Jay, you've got a Lord Taker telling you he may be losing power, and if he wins, will he be okay?
I got you. Lord Taker.
Ooh,
no problem. Thank you for letting me know. I got you.
Yeah, it's awesome. Welcome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, good luck.
We got them all over the world, right?
Taker. Good
So,
Yep, that's great.
Here, I want to show you some Dungeon Meister pics of this era. Just so you know that he's from France. This is a picture from the pre-battle of Crockport. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Shieldlanders getting ready to die.
Furiandians.
Furiandi, rather. Sorry.
Yeah, that is that's a big name. That's a big. What's her Lady Callenstron? I think her name is. Is that heraldry correct, Anna?
To some degree. Hang on a second. I need to go and. No, not, but it depends. It's. I love it. It's awesome. I'm going to steal the idea right away. So come on here. Oh, it looks awesome. It's not canon, but I love it. So I'm going to.
Have a place.
Oh yeah, it looks so damn cool. I'm going to steal it right away, and Yeah, we don't
In the
know
bottom
what's
left, what do you think that
exactly
is, Anna?
what
2 crowns or 3 crowns?
I was just going to say, what is it? I think it's the 3 crowns. I think
It's
it's
3
the
crowns.
the Theron crowns, those Theron crowns, and then we
Oh,
have the
right,
city
right.
symbol and the 2. Oh, I love it. So hang on a second. Do you?
We're allowed to use
Jay?
anything Dungeon Meister puts up.
Oh yeah,
He's given me
yeah,
permission. So
please send me that picture
I'll
so,
send it
so
to
I
you.
have it. Oh,
BB
perfect.
says
Thank you.
Crockport. It's the Crockport.
it's
symbol?
Crockport Blazon. Yeah, it's Crockport.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So we have Crockport. It's awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
More heraldry. I love it. Yep.
So
This is great.
there was
Yep.
an
Made
interactive. There was an interactive for the Codex of Infinite Planes, right, Casey? At the end of Living Greyhawk.
So, sort of. It was tied into the Ether Thread arc, and it had to do with the Tomb of Zunk. If I remember correctly, the Mage Priests and the Isles of Woe. But I was looking for the Codex, or got a hold of the Codex, so that he could try and power his rise from demigod or lesser god to a more powerful divine rank. 3rd edition used divine ranks. And my roommate Britt, who's a former Circle member, was in charge of all that. So I really forget those details. But he did have the Codex.
So now, hang on a second. But while we're talking about Zunk here, I need to know, what is it with hands and bury the hands up in the north? Meaning we have both the Zunk hands and we have the Yggdrax hands.
Oh, Yggdrax, right?
Yeah. What is that? Is that some sort of ancient punishment or something? You take the hands of powerful wizards and you hide them up in the north somewhere to take their magic powers away, or
I forget, but I think they are available as like a thing you can find in Living Greyhawk.
Exactly.
Events.
But can we? Is that a kind of of special punishment
Vecna,
ritual to do that?
The hand of Vecna.
Yes. So there might be an old. So we have to invent some old punishment versions where you cut off the hands and then you hide them or something. So yeah, they become powerless or something while their hands are captured somewhere or held off somewhere or something.
Anna, you need to put a spot on the map called the Tomb of Zump.
Okay, of Zump.
No, TZUNK.
Yeah.
No, there's a person in chat named Zump.
Oh,
Zump's been around a long time.
Yeah, Zump.
Yeah, a long time.
Yep.
I think you'd have Zunk in Yggdrax's tombs up there by Blackmoor.
Yeah. They're up north, or they're up in the Barrens.
So what I wanted to show was the campaign. Living Greyhawk winds down, and so and Dungeon Meister, he just did this in 2016. So and that is here it is. So here's them. Here's their adventuring party fighting the Boneheart at the end of this. At the end of that chain, right? All right. So they're fighting.
I like the robes. They're using robes.
That's Panjazek right there. That's Null back there. Yeah, and then
I think they wouldn't get quite that close, but we do know that they engaged in a lot of direct combat because a couple of Bonehearts are killed during the Greyhawk Wars. Some of them are unnamed to this day.
And then another whatever that spell is, he takes it in the face, not the face.
Patch or Moose, I think.
Patch gets killed in the wars, the Greyhawk Wars.
And Ormuz does too, if I remember correctly.
The wizard.
And then an unnamed third one also gets killed, maybe at this battle.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, there was one unnamed.
No, this is at the end of Living Greyhawk. This is the Codex series.
Oh, okay. So
this is the Codex.
Rick wrote an adventure where it was always predicted that one of the Bonehearts was going to betray Ayus, right? Because they wanted to become a god.
I have a picture of that.
And it was
Kermit,
I think it ended up being
Kermit.
Vascaline.
Yeah, but Vane was always he's portrayed in Ayus the evil. To always to scheme.
It was
against
Kermit.
Ayus.
Okay,
there you go, right there.
Right, Vane kept getting killed. Like Ayus would kill Vane and raise dead, and he would lose levels. He would go from 18th to 14th level, and he'd have to work his way back up.
Yeah, Wayne and Vakunis are these kind of outcasts that are thrown out there. And,
that's Kermit Mindbender on the right.
Yeah, it's Kermit. So, and that's a fight with that.
That's pretty cool little picture right there.
Yeah. So it's
is that Ayus in the middle?
That's the Avatar values. Yeah.
Oh
right.
yeah.
Yeah, the demon form.
Yep.
With the Codex of Infinite Planes.
Yep,
right here.
Yeah. So this was a Living Greyhawk finale year 8 event that Britt had written, and the PCs would fight multiple Bonehearts depending on what level the PCs were. I think at the highest level, APL 16 or 18, you're fighting. You don't ever get to fight IUs because it's Kerman, Mindbender, and IUs are off screen. But the result of your combat determines whether or not Kerman or IUs wins. And I asked Britt, what was the final official result? And he said, there isn't one because none of the judges handed in their table tracking forms to tell them what the results of their tables were because it was the end of Living Greyhawk and they didn't think it mattered.
Wow.
So Britt, I always push Britt, well, tell me what the end result is. And he just told me, take a hike. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to just make it up. So there is no official Living Greyhawk end result as to whether or not IUs was defeated by Kerman or became a more powerful god. But in my head canon, he's not going to lose to Kerman like that. That's just my head canon. And no one outside of who played those adventures even knows that all this happened. So if Greyhawk gets rebooted in the future, it'll just be I use, post wars I use probably would be my guess.
We don't want to go there.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, it's a painful one. I'd rather have 1,000 vampire Thrommels show up. Right?
1,000.
Well, that's
yes, I would.
It's usually just one is enough to
yeah.
you.
I'd rather have that than have
our
powers that be at WotC do anything. Sorry.
Well, just keep buying lottery tickets like I'm doing.
Yeah, we want them to do nothing right now. So
exactly.
with Greyhawks, we want them. Just keep doing what they've been doing.
Exactly.
Nothing.
Absolutely.
That's good.
So where are we now? Wherever, and I'm talking. One last thing. Where are we now? The last thing that happens is Expeditions to the Ruins of Greyhawk. That adventure. That's the last published source that happens. In that, that's kind of another. I love that adventure. Ran it right before I started live streaming about 5 years ago. In that, did you all know? Well, first off, Vane appears in that one. Vane's one of the main antithesis in that, and Ayus kills him again at the end of that. But even better, Ayus temporarily, right, gets put in. Where's that picture? I lost the picture. Shit. Ayus gets put into God Trap a second time.
Yeah, I forget how that gets in.
Fool me twice. Shame on me.
Yes, he gets. Here it is.
There
you go.
Nice.
Yep, he gets God trapped a second time in that adventure.
You don't roll my dice.
Which is really cool.
Yes. God trapped again.
Second time. Now, the problem is that can't happen, or that has to be undone by the players themselves because of what's happening that Vane has set loose. And
so
who are the guests? No, Scott Casper. We got Casey Brown with us. Casey.
Tommy Kranzer.
Yes. Of BK Lore and Living Greyhawk. So, and then you also have in this one, once again, they got a little nutty. You got a simulacrum of Igwolf running around, which becomes alive and sentient. Like an evil.
I love her. I love that idea.
But there's like two of them. There's like the good one, Aisha or something, and then there's the one that Wayne has that is like inferior thingy.
No, so what happens is there's a mirror opposition that permanently traps people inside them. So the original adventuring party, Ashta Tasha's the opposite of Ashta, who's actually good. So Ashta gets freed along with Robilar, the original Robilar, not Bolaro, who's pretending to be Robilar all along. So whether that's
it's a messy story that kind of screws up a lot of stuff.
Well, you can argue that with Eric Corona, right?
But it's kind of
Igwilf made the simulacrum, right? That's in Greyhawk Ruins. In 3.5 edition, simulacrums are half the level of their creator. So the simulacrum can't gain experience. Powerful. It's 15th level. Yeah. So Igwilf was 30th level when she created the simulacrum.
Yeah.
And also,
but hey,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Robilar, wasn't he out in the Bright Desert and ruled there and fled from that? Yeah.
But according to the Eric Mona crew, that's always been that. At that point, that was the. They're trying to explain why the hell he would kill Tensor and Adaluk, and whether you believe it or not, it it was a switch at that point.
So Robilar comes back and get locked up in there again.
So Robilar comes back as the original Robilar, and whatever you do with him.
Oh, so the other one was a fake one.
The other one was a mirror copy.
Ah, gotcha.
Now, whether you buy that or not, it's fine. You don't have to. Yeah, I just let him go off, and I haven't used him from this point yet.
That's
also note, Igwolf appears at the end of Return of the Eight because she's pissed off.
This is true. Return of the Eight's a good one.
Yes. She's pissed off that you've brought Tensor back. So, you got a lot of
this is cool. Robilar is a potential useful.
Right. So that's where anyone who's running 598 post campaign, do you need to decide, and that's where I'm trying to go on this discussion point. Where are you with IUs at that point, right, Mike? Where are you with IUs at 598?
He's dead.
He's dead.
My guys defeated him.
Oh, you're getting
wow, that's impressive.
He's gone.
Fake news.
It's gone.
That was a fake IUs.
Damn, you defeated him.
Yeah. He's got soul gems.
Well,
and whatnot.
He's
I agree.
On the abyss.
I agree 100%. Much more complicated than they put in that story.
Haldorf nuked him.
Roger Moore, I think, did some really good saving of things. You know, going back and doing some stuff. And we had him on. We had him on right after GaryCon last year.
Yeah.
So you have Lands of Ayus. Anna has the Horn Society separate again, right? Or allied?
No, not really. Horn Society is still in IU's hands. So it's called the Hornlands. So the Horn Society are now IU's enemies because IU screwed up all his relations with his original backers that were the Flan and Grast and the Horn Society. They were the ones that created him. Igvolf is the only one that he still has some contact with, but she lost most of her power because Grast and Igvolf had the big fallout, and Igvolf lost that fight, so to speak. So she's basically not powerless, but Grast still has some affection and feelings for Igvolf, so he hasn't killed her off.
Okay.
And she's kind of becomes that little puppet hidden away somewhere, and she might come back. I cannot keep her low profile locked away, so to speak. You never know when you want a new villain, so don't kill them off unnecessarily.
Right. I agree 100%.
So IU's is now in he's been at, because a lot of the stuff that happened in LG didn't happen in my campaign, so to speak. But for Yundi, you had the big the campaign where they retook
Great Northern Crusade.
Great Northern Crusade that was led by Katarina, and she was the marshal of that plan, so to speak. And she was originally, during the war, she was Belvor's bodyguard, and then so she is one of the leaders against IUs and the champion, so to speak. And she has a lot of mighty backers and now leading the charge. IUs has a huge problem because now almost all of his neighbors are now powerful enough to deal with him, and they figured out how to deal with him. So it's become a stalemate. So right now it's kind of, they're equally powerful. But the problem is that IUs has a cash flow problem because he's an evil overlord, and he doesn't want to. His troops have always been paid in by looting things, and so he expects, as a chaotic, evil, narcissistic overlord, that his troops are supposed to pay him. It's not the other way around. He's not supposed to pay the troops to do things. They are supposed to go out and loot and give him half the money of what they loot. That's his idea. And the problem is that there's no easy pickings. So now a lot of his are becoming unruly and stuff because they are simply saying, if we're going to fight for you, you need to pay us. Otherwise, we're not going to fight. And IUs is starting to run. Of course, he had to desperately open some coffers and hand out, but he doesn't want to. That hurts him in his soul to give away treasure and the stuff like that to maintain loyalty. So it's funny. So it's kind of so that's really a big problem for him. So he's doing various works around and so on, and now there's starting to be organized opposition. So he's up for the first real setbacks when now they Katarina and others, so they are now on going on the offensive against him. So that's basically the big premise, so to speak. Ius is trying to marshal various resources and stuff, but Girast has basically succeeded in a lot of his fight against the Great Kingdom and the campaign, because the Great Kingdom has fallen. So Girast is not anywhere near he doesn't want to back the upstart Ius, maybe replace him, but not back him. And also Girast is not that keen on getting involved personally. He likes to get involved by kind of proxy, so to speak, and so now it's kind of Ius is fairly lonely. He doesn't have that many loyal, because no one really likes him, because he portrayed the ones he were fighting for originally, and he's now just fighting for himself, period. And that is precarious. And also in the Shield Lands, a lot of the local lords and stuff, they realize that we don't like Ius much, so they're hedging their bets. And when they get the chance, they are getting rid of the looks. So a lot of the Iusian henchmen. So a lot of Iusians are now sitting in precarious situation. Wayne in Shield Lands is in a world of trouble, and with Vakunis and stuff, because they are being sacrificed by Ius in the front lines. And so there is a lot of turmoil, uncertainty, and possibilities, so to speak. And then so that's my premise for my campaign with Ius standing at the moment. He's not by any means defeated, but he is not on the march anymore. So yeah, which might make him even more dangerous. Yeah.
I have him also looking towards the plains. That was a big part of his Living Greyhawk story. Was he actually captured Pazuzu's Pazuzu himself, who was an ally in canon with him, and he captured the Mother of Beasts, the demon that birthed the monsters, I think, in Living Greyhawk, and he was looking to expand upon his power by becoming a planar player. But Jay, if you can zoom in on the spur of the Felry Forest there in the southwest by the Horn Society real quick, I want to show you guys something. Look for Dalvier's County and Darkpool.
I got Castle Dalvier right here.
Right. So what I want to tell you guys real quick is Dalvier is a lich, right? That's a canon lich. And we backstoried him to be this ancient Flan lich who was actually a worshiper of Nerul and an original founding member of like the old ass Flan Horn Society hundreds or thousands of years ago.
I took a up on that one.
Darkpool is where Nesmegen, the hierarch, fled after the night of the Blood Moon massacre. So we tied this in very much to be like, this was a Horn Society area of the Felry Forest, and that after Ius is kicked out of the Bandit Kingdoms, several powerful Iusians, Ladies Avengers of Grouster, in particular, had converted to the worship of Nerul after dying and coming back as a vampire. So the Horn Society is rebuilding and was going to be like attacking Molag soon to take it back over. That was kind of what we had going on. And most of the other fiefdoms had removed the Iusian rulership except Riftcrag. Kranzer is still so powerful that he's in control of Riftcrag and the Silver Mines post-wars. And he has made an alliance with Morgenstaller, the Red Dragon. 3.x terms, Morgie is a CR21 adult Red Dragon, who I statted out to be super buff. But he is scared of Dragotha.
Isn't Morgenstaller the one where the guy played the card and messed everything up?
Yeah, I mean, that was he gave him a Dovak. He gave Morgenstaller a Dovak demon and wrote it down on his track. That's a whole different animal.
But Casey, I love so much a lot of that stuff, so to speak. So I took it that they actually what you made with Dalvier in Limerick that made him all that kind of was one of the sparking ideas for making the Horn Society. They are Nerul worshippers. That they are the Dark Fae, the Dark Druids, and Old Flam, and that why I ran with it. And now they are they are organizing again, but this time against IUs. So now they have the funny thing in my campaign that Shieldlands and Horn Society are on the same side because they both hate IUs and they're both ganging up. So they're starting to have a kind of a non-aggression pact. They're not going to fight each other. They're going to fight IUs. So and IUs, to counter it, he's building a new capital in Hellorn, because he wants the capital that is central to his empire and not way up in Dorica. And so he's building a capital there to try and control it. And Dalvier, he's too scared of he's trying to get after Dalvier. The first time didn't go well. And Nismayan and others. So Horn Society, now they are now, because they are better at controlling undead and stuff. So loses one of his best weapons is undead, because the Horn Society, the clerics and various stuff, they are way better at controlling them. So they take the undeads from him, so to speak. So he's technically he's having problems with them, so to speak, because they are more evil than he is, and they are better organized than he is, because he's more chaotic evil, going bonkers, being narcissistic and untrustworthy. The Horn Society are better organized, and they don't fear anything whatsoever, so to speak. So it becomes a contest of a pissing match on who could be the most evil in among them. And the Shieldlanders and the Furiundians, they can kind of watch and say that they're going to strike at the Iusians every time, because they are still the bigger ones of the evil, so to speak. So, and they have the sense that saying that the Horn Society can get back the Hornlands afterwards. They can have that up there if they then recognize that the Shieldlanders and Furundi can have their lands, so to speak. So that's it's not a peace treaty, and they recognize each other. They just have a non-aggression pact saying that we both have the same enemy. That's as far as they go. And Morgenstaller is there too, because he's trying to, he uses Dragotha's remains, that she's a pseudo lich, so to speak, dragon, because she's old now, that she's crumbled into to become a demi-lich, a dragon demi-lich, and uses Morgenstaller to insert herself and reassert herself there, and so that's my part of it. And also I have the Prince Siege. He's now realized that it's time to abandon.
Hang on, don't leave the forest yet, Anna.
Okay. Yeah.
After living Greyhawk, Alorn becomes the new capital for the Warfield, which has merged with the Earldom of the Tangles, because the Earl got killed and whatnot. So, a little completely different. And then, like, Rookroost is under the control of the Rookroost Thieves Guild, essentially. Post IU.
We have a publication for Rookroost too, everyone.
Oh yeah, I wanted to.
Oh yes.
That's kind of where I was going with that, Jay.
Perfect. Awesome.
Where is Will? Because I'll plug somebody else's book.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I don't even have the PDF yet.
I only had I backed it at PDF
well,
level.
Will has donated at least 4 of these for the fundraiser as complimentary gifts too.
Good.
So
good stuff.
We have a bunch.
But
the
Yo-Rays.
Did you pre-order it?
I should have had one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, just contact Will and he'll take care of it.
Yeah. I was going to say, I didn't even get the PDF code.
Just reach out to him.
I mean, he sent that out a couple of weeks ago, so definitely reach out to him.
And then, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, the Yo-Rays, they retook their kingdom, which had been devastated by orcs. And then go to Alhaster at the end of Living Greyhawk, as I mentioned earlier, he converted back to Hyronius, and he actually built a temple of Hyronius next to the temple of Hextor that he had built, and both are legal
just
worship
like the Great Kingdom
in Alhaster. Right. Alhaster, I think, is supposed to be the last remnant of the Great Kingdom in that area.
Yeah, I have. So I've used a large part of the Living Greyhawk, the building blocks, so to speak, and I love a lot of that part. I didn't go with some of the end conclusions,
cool,
but it's kind of Prince Siege. I will definitely look into see how because I really inspired by that. So, but I will probably not make him go that far as he might want to be in Heronian and build a temple, but if he's going to be recognized or not, he has to probably done too much evil to do that. And
there was a lot of atonement.
Yeah, but he also has a consort that might be a problem. The silver dragon vampire.
Oh, from Age of Worms.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah, you don't use that.
It's funny how Casey doesn't like Age of Worms.
I love it. Zeech's, for the record, Zeech's consort in Living Greyhawk would have been the same gender as him. I'm not trying to be super woke or anything, but I am pointing it out that is representation cool matters. Zeech was described in canon. Maybe it's a little bit tropey, or maybe I hope it's not insulting. But he was described as being effete, and I think that was their way in the 80s or 90s of saying that he was gay.
Okay, but that's a really cool one. So
right. But I think it's really important to give representation.
That's a good one. I'm going to make something out of that. Yep. And see if I can tie it together.
So I know we're getting close to time here. My version, I use and the Horn Society, except for the areas of the Free Reavers lands. Okay. And then the Shield lands, because we have a whole Shield lands group going there, like from here down, up, and then noted all the way out to here. That's all been, it's almost like in a horseshoe, has been retaken, and then all the rest is still in enemy's hands. So, but then I don't touch a Bandit Kingdoms. I kind of do it more on a micro scale based on where we're campaigning. So, but that's what I have. Mike, anything I know I use is dead in your game, but hey.
Yeah.
Boom. Hey,
somewhere
John,
in
good
there,
to see you. Good night. Thanks for the raid, man.
Later, John.
Somewhere in there, I just had the time to mess with Vecna.
I know.
Right.
I know.
Yep.
Right.
In this one, he beats Vecna, and in this one, Vecna beats Ayuz.
I've forgotten about
just to summarize it.
Yep.
Ayuz gets mentioned also in the what's the 3.5 book about fiends? The Fiendish Codex 1, Fiendish Codex 2 that Mona wrote. He snuck in some Ayuz references in the demon one of those. I don't remember if that came before or after Greyhawk Ruins. Probably before.
Yeah, it had to have been. Greyhawk Ruins was the last thing they did.
It was the last thing they did for that edition, right? Yeah. So
absolutely.
But to me, it's interesting now when we have a lot of the published history, and we can kind of puzzle together our versions of the events we want to, using everything from the old school lore back in the 70s to Living Greyhawk at the end, so to speak. It's interesting because to me, Ayuz was kind of a cookie cutter bad villain in the beginning, and I didn't saw a depth or something. It was just this kind of just evil overlord, to like Sauron or something that wasn't personified or anything. Now when we have all the speculation, we have retcon things and all the lore that has been accumulated over 50 years almost, or like 40 years at least. Now it's interesting because now Ayuz is tied into the setting in so many ways, meaning his parents are power players in the setting big time. In my version of it, he was basically brought up to be the major villain in the setting. Probably had some of the worst childhoods imaginable in order to become this kind of powerhouse for their side, so to speak, and to have parents that are major politicians and villains in its own self. And he did whatever he could to live up to the hype, and in a lot of ways he succeeded. And then we have all he became this major power player and got tangled in basically every political military matter that happened in 30-40 years. So it's kind of interesting. He ties into a lot of things, and he also, I have it then, he ties into old Flan. He fights things that have been around for thousands of years, and he was allied with them, and then he had the split and stuff. So to me, Ayuz have become, from just being first a super villain and then a joke in the Gord books, almost, when he was seen as someone being taunted by the ladies, so to speak, and less a little teenager or something. So in my campaign now, I see Ayuz has many facets and is much more of an interesting thing. I mean, Cambion is an old dude. He's a demon. He's building his own demi-plane. And so he's much more multifaceted and way more interesting than I can imagine early on. And there's some awesome illustrations of him too that Sam Wood made that are almost forgotten, that I think are the coolest version of Ayu's ever, when he has these kind of horned things on his shoulders and looks very imposing. That is my vision of Ayuz as in his demonic form, so to speak.
He's also the only NPC who will spit on you and cause you to age.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks to, I think that was Greyhawk Adventures.
I think so. Yeah.
That's in the Glossography.
Oh, is it? It goes that far back.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
See you, Tim.
And my favorite part is in, because I've been read about this recently.
Thank you so very much.
The Glossography says he expectorates.
Expectorates is
That
such a good
sounds
word.
like vomit more than spit, but
no, expectorate is like when you hack up lung butter if you've been smoking, right?
So
isn't that expectorate?
Yeah, it's more than just him, spitting. It's a little
gloopy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good word. That's a Dean.
That'll
You're an
be
8-year-old and you come across that word.
We do have a giveaway going. We're doing some old school reprints. From very early.
The one thing we didn't do tonight was do a deep dive on the Bone Hearts and Bone Shadows. So that should be
we can always do that in the future.
His power structure is a very deep topic.
Yeah.
666. 6 lesser, 6 greater, and 6 bone shadow.
Yeah.
One adventure. Is that true in Living Greyhawk, Dale? Wow. Okay. Cool. Very cool. Neat stuff.
Huh. That must have been a Brit adventure.
Could have been. I think that was in the Swords of Answering.
Yeah, that was a Brit because I wrote a chapter of that adventure. I did the Kellenen stuff in that story arc.
I have one more Ayuz thing I need to cover real quick, and that is the Road of Skulls. So
of course,
yes.
In Ayuz the Evil, it says that the Road of Skulls goes from Darkha all the way up north to Kendrigan in the Howling Hills, and it's 300 miles long. And it says that every 60 yards, there is a pair of skulls on posts, right? So I was crunching some numbers here.
Oh my gosh.
And if my math is right, that is 17,600 skulls.
Yep.
So,
that makes
doable.
good sense. Yep.
It's doable. Yeah. I thought it was going to be a lot more than that, but no.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, look at the map and go from Kennemeet, Yo-Rays, because during Living Greyhawk, some schmuck little cleric of Ayuz started trying to do a Road of Skulls from the BK. And it just was a ridiculous.
Then
the guy
you need
got
like a million skulls. Or
the guy.
Was that a player character to try doing
it
that?
Was no, that was a plot point. There was an adventure where the guy who was running Yo-Rays was murdering townsfolk to use their skulls to create a new Road of Skulls.
Cool.
And he had to get murdered. If I remember correctly.
We talked about Scarlet Brotherhood there, Uchi, a while back. I had Sean Reynolds on, and he had the publication. He did. So we just had Sean Reynolds on a couple months ago. I was on a Gavin. It was good. So, this has been a great discussion, right? We got a lot accomplished, and thanks, Casey, for hopping on this too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike and Anna, for letting me crash and do my
awesome.
goofy bit at the beginning.
Jay wanted another easy topic, and when I threw this out, I was like, maybe this one will take a little bit more research. But no, I think Ayuz kind of sells itself. That wasn't too hard.
Yeah. Absolutely. Definitely.
I put together a bunch
and maybe he's overused. We've heard that from Mona and others talking about Ayuz is overused.
Well, I understand his point, and that's why he went a different direction in Age of Worms.
Right.
I really do.
Sure. But when you stop and think about it, to me, Ayuz is the quintessential just the bad guy from Conan the Barbarian, but
Tulsa
on
Doom?
a bigger scale. He gets this cult of personality built up around him, and then what
The
that guy
Ayuz
doesn't
family.
get is the humanoids eventually later. But I just mean he's an actual bad guy that you can focus your campaign around. He's not a nebulous
go up
force.
against.
Yeah, and I also think that it's good because he has so many henchmen and stuff that are good characters in itself. So you don't need to use him directly, but you can use him indirectly because we have like a dozen or 20 or so are really good awesome characters, villains in
Yeah, a
themselves.
halfling who'll poison you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's sad
just
though?
look at,
There's one sad thing. Eyes the Evil's available on drive-through, but Marklands isn't.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
Very, very weird. I mean, all this discussion tonight actually makes me think, like, I've always considered Greyhawk to be mid-magic. I want it to be low magic, but we talked so much high magic tonight. The Bone Shadow and Boneheart are all high level, summoning demons, fighting huge magical battles with the
Yep.
Shield Lands and Furiandi and all these earth-shattering, events, and the Horn Society summoning devils. That,
But-
like, this is too high fantasy for me for Greyhawk in general, other than it's just massive death and destruction.
Well, but I like that there is high magic. It's not that it's not there. It's just that it doesn't prevail through the whole society. Not everyone knows magic, and meaning you don't have like refrigerators run by magic, and you don't tell. Meaning there's no shipping companies using teleports to send things. And that's what I mean by high magic in my campaign. Meaning magic is powerful but not as prevalent, so to speak. It's like it's not everywhere. There's not whole nations full of magic users that can turn it into industrial production powerhouses and all that. It's more like it's the rare thing that can be very, very powerful and steer things, but it doesn't revolutionize the whole of society, so to speak. It's still basically a medieval economy, and so that's what that's my interpretation of that. That is high magic, but it's limited not in scope but in quantity.
Okay.
We didn't even talk. There's a lot of we could go back on this topic. Really, some really good stuff. I really appreciate everyone's input on this. It was definitely a real fun time. So,
and there's many campaigns you can get out of Ayus and his empire. Several.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Notice all of our end games. All of our end games are all
soul
different.
husks. Yes.
Yeah, we didn't get
wonderful.
to that. We didn't get
Oh
to
no. I have my idea of soul husks. I've used them in my campaign.
Do you think soul husks are a spoiler, or should that be something you just?
It's kind of a spoiler, but I told my players because they figured it out, so to speak, partially, and the soul husks are I use experiments, so to speak. He used a lot of critters, to humans and others, enemies, to basically take their life force out and to become a demigod, and he left the remains up in the soul husk caverns up in the Howling Hills, and now he uses, that's one of his most powerful spells, that you can turn someone into a soul husk, and they become a special type of undead.
Did he use some kind of god trap?
Not really. It's just his way of tormenting. So you have the body can go around and scream out its agony, because he basically uses the soul of critters in order to. Yeah, so exactly. So the leftovers, the bodily leftovers are simply going around in the prime material plane and screaming out the pain that the soul is in constantly, as a way of both dominating, using the powers, and get IUs is all about being multiple use of evil. You can't just use it one dimension. You have to use it in many different ways, and that's the soul husks. So the party, they met a soul husk kind of the first time. They heard the screams of one. So that's one of my Iusian monsters, are the soul husks. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So they created a soul husk in at the adventure now, but the characters just heard it from a distance. That was enough to spook them, so to speak. So the soul husk. That's my take on the soul husks, and so he has a whole cavern full of soul husks, and that because he doesn't want to.
Husks is an in-game quest for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it's suggested to be an adventure, and I use the evil as a high level. Take these out, and you weaken. I use kind of before you fight an adventure. Can I ask you guys a real quick God trap question before we wrap up? This got me thinking tonight. the illustration of the God Trap from Greyhawk Ruins. So Zagig God traps the 9. Maybe that's what happened to Tharizdun. The actual gods, super god trapped Tharizdun. Maybe that's the banishment. Just an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Batoon's trapped too. A lot of trapping going on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So who's behind it? Yeah. We know that Zagig built it, kind of. Yeah. Or did he just discover it?
I think he discovered it.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, that was a Tharizdun question.
Yeah.
Since Mike has his cultist, Mike, I thought I looked like one of your cultists when I showed up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. Yeah.
With the hood on.
If you had a pair of gloves, that would have
That was
set it
awesome.
Oh
off.
yeah.
Oh my god!
Yeah, you should have had some leather gloves on.
Yeah, I didn't realize who it was until I saw the background. that kind of gave it away. So yeah.
Yeah,
they gave it away. Yep.
Spider chip.
Yeah, it's awesome background,
Yeah.
but it gave.
I guess I'm lucky that Stella didn't like.
I'm a bit scared on that picture because Scandinavia is in the crosshairs in the middle, so I'm kind of a little bit worried there. Yeah.
We'll do some quickie shout outs here, and then we'll do the giveaway. Then we'll find someone to raid into. Mike, what's going on?
Well, as usual, I have a new blog post up
Nice.
titled "Let's Fight IUs."
Nice.
Well, you done it in your campaign, so yeah.
No, this is 1E rules.
Oh, okay.
So it shows the futility of trying to fight IUs in
that is
AD&D.
awesome.
It's a lot of fun if you go back and read it like I have and try to
Nice.
figure them out. I'm
Can't wait.
realizing now that fighting IUs in first edition would be quite deadly but fun. Other than that, that's all I have going
Awesome.
on.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
commenting
enjoy.
here. Yes, a very bad idea. Post. Post it. I'm not a robot. Publish. There we go. Awesome, Mike. Well, thanks. Appreciate it. Very cool. Casey, what's up?
Again, thanks for having me on,
Sure.
guys. I just kind of invited myself onto the
Oh,
show.
this
today.
was awesome. Thank you.
Real quick rundown through mine. So I want to keep working on my project, Too Many Gods, but I looked at the file and I haven't even worked on it since last June. So I need to get my butt in gear.
Yeah.
And that's where the project where I'm talking about what I think happened to Tharizdun, that he was driven away, that he went mad, he wanted to kill everyone, and that he was the former overgod in my headcanon. Speaking of Bone Shadows, in my Ghosts of Saltmarsh campaign, the PCs are now 10th level, getting ready to do one of Final Adventures, and I've got Sunaferal Bright Robes, the Bone Shadow, searching for Drowmidge's underwater secret lair in
nice.
the Azure Sea, and they've already run into him once, and he survived after he killed one of the PCs. I've got like 8 PCs in this campaign, and it's 5e, so it can be very hard to kill characters. But Lord Obmi has killed a character in my campaign, and now Sunaferal has killed a character in my campaign. So I need to get Keek and the rest of them involved in this before I wrap it up. And
Awesome.
my PCs are in Keeland, and none of these guys know anything about like IUs except for one guy who's my age. But if you look in Against the Giants, Lord Obmi is wanted for murder in Keeland. So that's how I tie the Iusians kind of into Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Plus, spoilers, there's the Tiefling in Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Anyway, I'm running my...
Only in your 5e mind.
I mean, that's in the 5e book.
I know. I'm being a smartass.
I'm running Candlekeep Mysteries as a Scooby-Doo linked series of adventures where the PCs work in Candlekeep by day and then have shenanigans and adventures when a book flies off the shelf and hits them in the face with the plot hook. Yeah,
that's great.
And so they're doing the 10th level adventure now, and that's been great fun. We've been doing that during COVID with some friends spread all over the country on Roll20. I'm in the early stages of thinking about my unofficial Living Greyhawk history book and how to plot it out, and I'll probably start outlining it here soon. My work has recently gotten less crazy. I work in insurance, and end of the year is always a busy time of year for insurance.
They're rich.
And then finally, thank you. That's a double blog. Wah, 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 wah. That's. I had to make that noise for a double plug. Finally, all the OGL craziness has gotten me thinking. Like, I've always wanted to make my own edition of 3.5 and look at the old stuff. BX, BECME, first edition, second edition, and what is a fighter and what can I take from all editions? And I know plenty of other people have done this, but I just recently started plotting out this idea of taking the best of third edition, fifth edition, nothing from fourth, probably. I'll just throw that out there. And I've already come up with my idea that there's 6 base classes and then subclasses for every possible 25 subclasses based on those. So I might pitch it to some of my friends because after Ghosts of Saltmarsh, I want to run a little bit more of a hardcore home ruled campaign set in the Bandit Kingdoms. So
why not?
Yeah, maybe I'll do a little bit more home brewery in the next one.
Cool.
So
awesome. Very cool, Casey. Anna, what's going on?
A lot of Photoshop. I'm sorry, I've been radar silent. I've just been hunkered down doing Photoshop. I got up really early and I Photoshopped till noon, and then I done my errands and then I gone to bed. So I'm going to go to bed right because I was up like 3 o'clock this morning and I've already clocked 8 hours of Photoshop. But it's getting there. But I now have so much Photoshopping to do. So yeah. But now I also have the Crockport heraldry to do. So that will be my assignment for tomorrow, to crank out the Crockport heraldry will come to, because now I have that. It's awesome. And so the big thing is to get it, and I'm making really good progress on the Photoshop front. So both the Southern Shieldland and Altamira is making good progress here. So because I want to get both. I want to get part of the Southern Shieldland out the door for my own campaign, and then for Gary Con I want to have a large part of the Altamira terrain done. So we have some really some good look at what the Altamira terrain area, not the city itself. We'll skip that to this summer when we can have more of the because I need to connect with Jay more often. Exactly. We need to dig into where the houses are and stuff. So I will make a few other areas detailed down to the T, but it's a lot of the basic editing done, all the lot of the lakes and stuff like that, to figure out where trees grow and stuff. So there's a lot of touching up the raw stuff, but it's a lot of fun but a lot of work. So I'm going to put in about 200 hours the next couple of weeks. So 2-3 weeks to get it done. So I'm going to push 12-hour days on just photoshopping. So it's a lot of stuff, but I'm going hike and stuff in between. So to get out of my chair too. So, but that's a lot of it. But I will catch up, and I've seen there's a lot of comments and emails and stuff. So I will do some of that tomorrow as well, and do Crockport. So and then work. So it's a lot of Photoshop. So right now, not so much to show, but damn, there's a lot of cool stuff coming. Yep.
Awesome, Anna. Very cool. So, if you didn't know, I put this on this morning. I am this next guest on, and I linked it. How Not to DM podcast. So there you go. You want to hear me babble on about some stuff? It's only 15 minutes long. So, and a lot of it, there's some ads in there. So, but I think it's a pretty good discussion with that channel. So you can check that out.
Oh, I look forward to listening to that.
Thanks. Yeah, the link is in chat. I just listed it. So awesome. This is what's going on tomorrow night. We go to Heart. Yep.
No, please continue. I was going to say on Friday there will be a mapping live stream, awesome. And on Sunday there will be a game. Yeah.
Good. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of stuff going on this weekend.
Yep.
Not for me though, because I'm taking after last weekend. I'm going to spend some wife and family time. 988 Hiltless Swords out of Hardby. Nightmare of the Albert Owls. We start that tomorrow night. That'll run 2 weeks, and then the fundraiser's here. So because we're going to do a special Thursday night. The Thursday before the fundraiser, we'll get there. Well, let me stop babbling here. Sunday, we are going to do this because I was like, this. We're going to do it. Why not? The goal. We're going to talk classic RPG PC games. Okay. Let's have some fun with this.
Eye of the Beholder.
Yeah, exactly. Gold Box Society, the Wizardry, Darklands, Wasteland, and many others. We're just going to sit there and chat it up with all these. Some of your favorites, my favorites. Yeah, that's wrong. February 30th is so freaking wrong. Oh my gosh. I was rushing. This Sunday, so February 5th. Oh my God,
I'm glad it's not February 30th. I was worried I lost the month here.
February 5th. February 5th. Yeah, Pool Radiance, all of them. Just whatever. Just talk about them. I remember the Adiugs molding the the piles of dung in the one. I think it was your Pool Radiance, of Curse of the Azure Bonds. All those great memories. Yes, and my mental state there is kind of deteriorating. Is going. So big fundraiser. Here's what I was talking about. 17th, 18th, and 19th of February. Starts real early, like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. Phoenix Iwaki starts. But the night before, when I have a normal Thursday night game, the 16th, we're going to do a special kickoff event. All my guys, including the ever mysterious Tim, one character. I don't care what level it is. You're going to see 17th, 18th level characters, 16th level characters. A one shot. So they're going to play whoever they want in the campaign. I open this up like once every 5 years. Oh, you can play. So, and it'll just be a one shot, super high level to kick it off. By the way, we already got $30 in. So we're almost to $20,540. Just kidding. But we're on our way. So that is that week. And then the Monday night after the Super Bowl when the Eagles win, the Monday night after is the Prelude show for Gavin. Darling's confirmed. I haven't gotten through to all the other DMs yet, but usually they can come on the first hour or second hour. We'll have a ton of guests on that. That time is wrong, too. It's 7 p.m. It starts, the Greyhawk Prelude show, and then my main event, Puppets, and then some. Yes, with Ed Greenwood, Luke Gygax, Eric Mona, Steven Chenault, and then Darling and Bones will fill it out with that group. Now that is at 6 o'clock on Saturday. Yes, that's going to be really. Where do you see the stuff Bill's making for it too? Yes. It's my puppets because I can't run third level. Puppets is for third level characters. It doesn't work. We got 7th, 8th level characters in here, so it's puppets on steroids. Yeah, you'll see. Plus, I got some surprises. No, sorry, Uchi, not happening. I've already had 12 people trying to get in this game. So I know you're joking, but I've had so many people trying to get. I just can't. Yeah, so we got 4 hours. Is that a good module? No, it sucks. That's the whole point. It's terrible. There is a leprechaun named Freddy McCruger. Okay, this is published source for Greyhawk. So it's not that bad. Yes, it is. It's bad. There's Little Bo Peep and Little Miss Muffet. Come on. It's freaking terrible for Greyhawk.
Greyhawk is so silly that don't even make the top 10 silliest things.
Yeah, exactly. We had a Living Greyhawk intro mod where the author wrote a Dukes of Hazzard scenario. Well, he literally had a boss hog and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, dude, my Trihead cohort Theo was editing it and was too young to know what the Dukes of Hazzard was. And let everything slide, and I had to yank the adventure and rewrite all the names.
Oh my gosh!
Right, and in 2 weeks, Jay hasn't made the card for this yet, but we're doing Living Greyhawk Grand March show.
Grand March. So
for the first time ever,
we're gonna have fun and raise money. Eric Mona likes me when I run Dumb Adventures. I ran Gargoyle for him. Luke was in that one too. We're just gonna have fun with it. Trust me, it's going to be an Altamira. You'll see. I have surprises, too. Stuff that's not in the original adventure.
Good.
One of legendary movie fame. You'll see. Oh. You guys will be like, oh, my God, that's genius. Just wait it out. And that's what's going on. So let me do the giveaways here. Thanks, everyone, for patience.
36 did die Yellow Rock named Tweety.
Just some awful, awful stuff, but it's going to be a blast.
I mean, there was a Beckme adventure, the Immortal Adventure, which took you to Chicago, right?
Right. There's all that kind of stuff.
That wasn't too bad. I remember having that one.
Yeah. Here's the winner tonight. Curtis! Dun, dun,
Oh,
dun.
wow.
That's
Awesome.
because I feel bad.
Congratulations.
You know why? I felt bad for him for San Francisco getting smashed by my Eagles, and I rigged it. I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
I'm
yeah.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Now
I
you
just-
proved that you can rig it. So.
No, I can't. I just made that up on the fly. Curtis, I'll get with you, and awesome. We'll see you all tomorrow night, 7:30. Come hang out. Double Reaper giveaway, bunch of miniatures from Reaper. And we'll and we'll have a little fun in the Harby Aberrals area, and we'll go from there. Let me see. I was gonna raid I was gonna raid this group, and they're still on break. Do I skip that if they're on break? I'm gonna type in.
Seems silly to raid into a break.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't even know them. So I say, oh, this looks cool. It's something different. But oh man, I guess I'm gonna do it anyway because I don't have anyone else to set up to raid into. So we're gonna raid into players and creators. I have no idea, but they look kind of cool. Anna and Mike and Casey. Oh, you have a great night. Thanks a lot for everything.
Oh,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Of course.
And hail I use.
Hail I
Yes.
use. See you all tomorrow night. Boom. Well, if they're gonna get a raid of like 90 people, they better hop in, right? Give me 1 second.
Almost be funnier. The old one spits on you. I don't know why people say they spit on the old one.
I know.
Old one is the one that has a spit attack.
That's probably
just
part
a
of the
dumb
irony.
idea. That means you're
Yeah.
close to him, and that's just going to encourage him to spit back on you.
Yeah.
So
I love
always
the
thought
spell
that was
spittle. We didn't even talk about that. It's in
Right.
Return of the Eight and the Greyhawk.
Yeah, we did briefly. I
Greyhawk
converted it to
Adventures,
5e and used it on my characters. And
I like
That's
the.
a very
I
good
always like the
question.
1E2E version.
I was only using that blog post I did on IUs. I was only using stuff out of
Oh crap!
the glossography and the one handbook. But I guess IUs would have access to the same spells as Priest used.
What's that?
yeah, of course.
All the spells in I Use the Evil that the clerics have,
Yeah.
I use would be able to
You
use
can't
those spells
grab
as
them
well.
if you can't use them.
100,
Yeah.
awesome. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good night, everybody.
0.
102. That's wow.
Yes.
That's
They had
a
11.
great. Wow. That is good numbers. See,
Yeah.
Casey, you brought in good numbers. Yeah.
Oh, no. Everyone was coming to listen to IUs. They didn't know I was coming on.
I use.
No, that's true. But it was great. Thank you, Casey, for coming on and
Well-
helping us out with this. That was great.
That was fun. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this will be great because Mike can drive the bus and I'll sit back and be pretty quiet. I'm sorry, Mike. I was not sitting back and quiet.
It was that was perfect. And even through all that, I ran through most of the stuff that was on my list on my paper.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah, we got to most of
we even
of my
snuck in
points,
soul
I think.
husks. I
Yeah.
thought, we'll save that some other time.
Yeah.
No, we snuck
Yeah.
in.
No,
Yeah.
that's a big one. We didn't even talk about